Chapter 2784. Miss Lung, your child is crying. 3. Following that, Lung Ruashu turned to look at Song and nodded its furry little head. Song, the Ice Phoenix should be the child of Ice Spirit, and it's also my friend. So you really can't bully it. All right then. Azure nodded and changed the topic. Girl, aren't you going to refine the reincarnation pill? Where is it? Let me see. He didn't come back after the reincarnation pill healed the Ice Spirit. Lung Ruashua said awkwardly. She had too many things to do and had forgotten to ask about the reincarnation pill's whereabouts. Could it be that she's dead? Song guessed. It can't be. Lung Ruashua did not believe it. Based on her understanding of her master's reincarnation pill, it definitely did not have the spirit of sacrificing itself for others and being selfless. Therefore, she would never believe that the two reincarnation pills were dead. However, it was indeed quite puzzling that he had yet to return, for he was found by Ice Spirit. Azure continued to guess. This possibility is not impossible, but even if it was confiscated by the Qilin clan, it probably wasn't the Ice Spirit's intention. Even though she had not spent much time with Ice Spirit, Lung Ruashua knew him well enough to know that he would never do such a thing. The only person who would do such a thing was Huayu. Right, my reward. You bastard. How could she have forgotten to ask for a reward? Lung Ruashua was extremely depressed. When did she learn to be like Lei Feng? She actually forgot to ask for compensation. No, she couldn't just do good things for that idiot Huayu without asking for money. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruashua carried Song and went to find Ice Spirit. Uncle Long had already arranged for Ice Spirit's residence. At this moment, Bing Pu was listening to Bing Yao's soft complaints with a blissful expression on his face. He would comfort her from time to time. For a moment, Lung Ruashua didn't have the heart to disturb the warm scene of a loving father and a filial son. However, Bing Yao's eyes were sharp. After sensing Song's threat, her small body immediately trembled. She even tried to shrink into Bing Pio's arms, burying her head in his chest, leaving only her chubby little butt outside. At this moment, Ice Soul lifted her head and nodded at Lung Ruashua. Then, she looked at the little white cat in her arms. Senior Song, Ice Spirit said with uncertainty. Azure's appearance was ever-changing. In the past, they were familiar with a Totoro, but now he saw a cat. However, the aura of this cat was exactly the same as what he knew. Oomph. Little Qilin, congratulations on your revival. Song Wei nodded and said arrogantly. When Ice Spirit heard this, he was speechless. He was only unconscious, not dead. What did he mean by alive again? These words were really too unbearable. However, these words came from Song's mouth. No matter how unhappy Ice Spirit was, he wouldn't provoke Song for no reason. After all, the consequences of provoking Song were terrifying. Thank you for your concern, Senior Song. Ice Spirit had no choice but to say politely. Then, Ice Spirit turned to Lung Ruashua and asked, Little girl, what's the matter? Yes, I want to know where the reincarnation pill is. Lung Ruashua said directly. They didn't tell you? Ice Spirit asked in surprise. No, I haven't seen them since Senior finished healing. Lung Ruashua said honestly. After they healed my injuries, one of the reincarnation pills told me that they would take the other one away for a while. I thought they would tell you, so I didn't mention it to you. Plus, you never asked about their whereabouts, so I thought you knew. Ice Spirit was speechless. I don't know. Things came one after another during that time, and I didn't have time to ask. Lung Ruashua said rather awkwardly. As a result, she had really forgotten about it. Then you can rest assured now. After they healed my injuries, although they're a little weak, is not a big problem. I think they will come back to find you. Ice Spirit consoled. He knew that, during that period of time, it was his matters that had bothered Lung Ruashua, so he felt rather embarrassed. Yes. Lung Ruashua nodded and continued. Senior, there's one more thing. Your Qilin clan still hasn't paid me the reward. Ice Spirit was silent. How could he take this? I'll inform the clan and have them send you your reward as soon as possible. Ice Spirit replied after a long time. Thanks, then I'll have to trouble Senior. I won't disturb you anymore. Please continue. Lung Roashua beamed with satisfaction. With that, she completed her mission and left Ice Spirit's residence with Azure. Watching Lung Roashua's back view, Ice Soul felt helpless. Then, he sent an order back to his clan. In less than a week, Huiyu and Elder Qilin arrived happily with their rewards. A large group of Qilin came with them, including Fengyi. When Fengyi first saw Lung Roashua, he was a little embarrassed. But very quickly, he returned his normal self and hugged Lung Roashua's leg, wailing, "Wu, Schwerer, how could you abandon me and leave the Qilin clan alone?" Fengyi felt wronged. They were from the same country, okay? Why did the church keep him? This fact really made him sad. We didn't leave you behind. It's you who didn't show up, okay? Lung Roashua naughtily pushed the blame to Fengyi. When Fengyi heard this, he became even more embarrassed. It was because Lung Roashua was right. It was indeed him who had not appeared. This was mainly because he felt that he had made a huge mistake and was too ashamed to face anyone. So he went into hiding. However, by the time he thickened his skin and wanted to look for Lung Roashua and the others, he found out that they had already left. Instantly, he felt a sense of desolation as if he had been abandoned, and he was sad for a long time. It was only when the clan leader sent back an order for the acting clan leader to deliver Lung Roashua's reward that he thickened his skin and followed along. This time, he had no intention of leaving. In any case, he was Lung Roashua's servant, so she would definitely not chase him away. At this moment, Fengyi felt more confident than he had ever felt before. When he heard that Lung Roashua had not abandoned him, he felt even more blissful. However, Huiyu and the first elder of the Qilin clan were quite uneasy. They both lowered their heads and didn't mention anything about the reward. According to the strategy that the two of them had discussed beforehand, they had to stay with the clan leader no matter what. Hence, as long as Lung Roashua did not take the initiative to ask them for compensation, the two of them planned to keep their eyes closed. This was because the two of them were afraid that if they took the initiative to give Lung Roashua her compensation, that girl would not give them any face and chase them away. If Lung Roashua mentioned it, the two of them would try their best to delay it. If they really could not delay it any longer, they would give it to her. In short, everything was based on the premise that they could stay, and they had to adapt to the situation. Seeing their reactions, Lung Roashua could guess what they were thinking. After snickering, Lung Roashua asked on purpose, "Did you bring the reward?" I haven't gathered all of them." Huiyu and the Qilin Great Elder looked at each other and said in unison, "Since you haven't gathered all of them, what are you doing here?" Lung Roashua asked in confusion. This question was really difficult to answer. The two of them felt like they were riding a tiger and couldn't stop. Why was this girl so difficult to deal with? Could it be that she couldn't be like an ordinary human and revere the Qilin clan? At this moment, the two of them truly hoped that Lung Roashua would be no different from an ordinary human. But obviously, they were deceiving themselves. Then, the two old Qilins heard Lung Roashua mumbling to herself, "Originally, since you're here, I was planning to invite you to stay here for a while, but now that you haven't collected your pay, I think you'd better go home and get it. You have to know that I'm going to collect interest after a long time." When the two old Qilins heard this, they immediately smiled bitterly. They had really shot themselves in the foot. This girl didn't play her cards according to the rules. What should they do now? Tell her that the reward had been gathered? Wouldn't they be slapping their own faces? After hesitating for a moment, the relatively calm first Elder Qilin said, "There's no need to go back. Before we came, we already told the clan that they would immediately send the money here." "I see. Then you can stay here temporarily and wait. I hope I won't have to wait too long." Lung Roashua didn't make things difficult for them this time, and was very understanding. In reality, according to Lung Roashua's thoughts, since these old Qilins were already here, they would definitely not leave. She couldn't really chase them away. After all, the two parties were allies now. When Huiyu and the Great Elder Qilin saw that Lung Roashua was so easy to talk to, they were so touched that tears welled up in their eyes. It was really not easy to stay. When they moved into the residence that Lung Roashua had arranged for them, Huiyu and the Great Elder of the Qilin clan felt as if they were in a dream. It was so unreal. Lung Ruakshu's fickleness had caught them off guard. After a while, the two of them discussed and decided to send a reward to Lung Ruashue the next day. Even though doing so would be a slap to their faces after all, they had already said that they had not gathered enough remuneration. They believed that Lung Ruashue was no fool. How could she not understand their little scheme? Therefore, in order to show their sincerity, they didn't delay it for a few more days. In short, everyone had a tacit understanding. One had to know that the reward should have been given long ago. However, the entire Qilin clan was so immersed in the excitement of the clan leader's awakening that they had completely forgotten about this matter. Now that she had taken the initiative to mention it, how could they drag it on? The next day, Lung Ruashue received her reward. Without even looking at it, she handed it over to Uncle Long to handle. Then, she turned to the two uneasy old Qilin and said, "The two of you can rest assured. I think your family head won't be leaving this place for a while." Yes, Huiyu and the great elder Qilin nodded vigorously. Although they did not understand what Lung Ruashue meant, as long as she was willing to let them stay, why did they care so much? Just like that, a large group of Qilins settled down in Demon City temporarily. Chapter 2785. Heart-to-heart talk between father and son. 1. After the Qilins' arrival, Demon City instantly became much more lively. This was because these Qilins were all like Granny Lu, who had just entered the Grandview Garden. They were curious about everything. Feng Yi, who had lived here for a while and was quite familiar with the place, naturally became their guide. Every day, Feng Yi brought the idle Qilin brothers to wander around the city. In the beginning, everyone and the beasts expressed a strong welcome to their arrival. After all, Qilin was really too rare to see. However, as time passed, everyone and the beasts were a little overwhelmed. If these Qilins just wanted to look, it would be fine. However, the other party held the spirit of shamelessly asking. When they saw people they didn't know, they would all get to the bottom of it and make people understand. Otherwise, they would keep pestering the other party. If this happened once or twice, the others would still be patient. However, as the number of times increased, the humans and beasts in Demon City would all start to hide when they saw them. "You bastard!" The students were too eager to learn, which made the teachers feel depressed. This was because the Qilins' questions were simply strange. Not only were they unimaginable, they were also completely unable to answer. Of course, for the sake of their pride, they couldn't say it out loud. Their hiding caused the Qilins to surround and intercept them. In the end, everyone couldn't take it anymore and could only report it to Uncle Long. Uncle Long felt conflicted when he heard the complaints. No wonder he rarely saw Qilin at home recently. So they had all run to the city to humbly seek guidance? Logically speaking, this was supposed to be a good thing, but once he was too modest, it was really quite unbearable. Especially the beasts of the endless ocean. They were already afraid of the Qilin, and the bloodline pressure of the Qilins' inborn bloodline also gave them a lot of pressure. But those Qilins didn't seem to be aware of it, and they kept pestering them with questions all day long. Which beast could stand it? Just the fear was enough to drive everyone crazy. However, it wasn't appropriate for Uncle Long to tell this to Ice Spirit. After all, he was a little AI. This was the instinct of a beast. It seemed that this matter had to be handled by Shui. After some thought, Uncle Long decided to look for Lung Ruashue. When they arrived at Lung Ruakshu's residence, she happened to be sunbathing in the courtyard. When she saw Uncle Long, she was rather surprised. "Wasn't Uncle Long very busy recently? How'd you have the time to find me?" "Uncle Long, what's the matter?" Lung Ruashue looked at Uncle Long's worried face and couldn't help but ask. Uncle Long nodded and told Lung Ruashue about the situation. When he finished, Lung Ruashue couldn't help but laugh. "Bad girl, you're still laughing. The beastmen in the city are so annoying," Uncle Long said helplessly. "Uncle Long, what should I say? I've said it before, we have to find something for the Qilin to do, but you couldn't bring yourself to order them around. Look at what happened now. They've caused trouble for everyone, right?" Lung Ruashue laughed evilly. "Shui, you don't understand Beastie's pain." Uncle Long sighed. Only after becoming a divine supreme level beast would the pressure from those beasts with a higher bloodline level not affect them as much. However, before becoming a divine supreme-level beast. The bloodline was enough to crush all other powers. AI. This was all due to the inequality in one's bloodline. It was inborn. The pitiful beastmen were also helpless. Understand. They'll find Ice Spirit and personally arrange some work for them. That should be fine, right? Lung Ruashua asked with sympathy. Well, as long as they don't have the chance to wander around. Uncle Long didn't ask for much. He just hoped that the Qilin wouldn't appear around those weak and pitiful beasts. Otherwise, they would scare those timid beasts to death. Don't worry, I won't let them have the chance to wander around. Lung Ruashua promised and went to look for Ice Spirit. When they arrived at Ice Spirit's residence, Lung Ruashua saw him looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle with a sorrowful expression before she even entered the courtyard. Bing Yao was sleeping soundly on the stone table in the courtyard. The warm sunlight shone on Bing Yi's body, making it look like it was sparkling. The little fellow was so happy that it even started snoring. Thanks, what was going on? Didn't Ice Spirit look so happy just now? Filled with curiosity, Lung Ruashua walked into the courtyard. Ice Spirit only glanced at her and continued to ignore her. Lung Ruashua was a little depressed. She found a place to sit down and stared at Ice Spirit without blinking. After being stared at by Lung Ruashua for a long time, Bingpa finally could not take it anymore and said helplessly, "Little girl, stop looking at me." "What, are you shy?" Lung Ruashua said with a smile when she saw Ice Spirit's hair standing on end. It seemed a little, but he was more uneasy. This little girl was too dangerous, and nothing good would come out of her coming to him. Thinking of this, Ice Spirit became alert. Lung Ruashua felt depressed when she saw Ice Spirit's cautious expression. She wasn't a monster, okay? Did he have to be so guarded against her? "Senior, I've come to find you for something." Since the matter had already reached this point, Lung Ruashua could only go straight to the point. "Speak." Ice Spirit's answer was short and powerful. "Your Qilin family has been loitering around Demon City. They've been causing trouble for my family's weaker beastmen." Lung Ruashua said honestly. And then, Ice Spirit could tell that Lung Ruashua had more to say, so he was not in a hurry to answer. "I hope Senior can restrain their behavior," Lung Ruashua requested. "I don't have the time," Ice Spirit said irresponsibly. "Then he'll restrain them." Lung Ruashua was prepared for Ice Spirit to say this, so she did not hold back. "How do you want me to restrain you?" Ice Spirit asked curiously. "Arrange some work for them, damn it. You eat my food, live in my place, and even harass my orcs here, causing Demon City's orcs to almost fall into depression." Lung Ruashua said hatefully. Is it that serious?" Ice Spirit had never left the courtyard, so she wasn't sure what was going on outside. After hearing Lung Ruashua's words, she felt that she was exaggerating. Depression? Is this a joke? The Qilin has already seriously affected the lives of the beasties, causing them to be unable to eat well, unable to sleep well, and all the beasties have lost quite a bit of weight, to the point that their beastly forms are almost unrecognizable. Lung Ruashua said in an exaggerated manner. "If that's the case, then you should arrange some work for the Qilin. They're staying here with you now, so it's only natural for them to listen to your arrangements. If anyone disobeys, you have the right to chase them away. No need to give me face." Ice Spirit said after thinking for a while. "I was waiting for you to say this." When Lung Ruashua heard this, she immediately expressed that she understood. Then, the two of them stared at each other. Chapter 2786. Heart-to-heart talk between father and son. 2. Ice Spirit had thought that Lung Ruashua would leave once the matter was settled. Who knew that she had no intention of leaving at all? Now, he was not sure why Lung Ruashua had come to find him. It was too hard to guess what this little girl was thinking, so Ice Soul decided not to waste her brain cells and asked, "Is there anything else?" Ice Soul couldn't help but ask, feeling extremely uneasy. "Come, we should have a good talk," Lung Ruashua said with the expression of an understanding elder sister. "I'm not free," Ice Spirit refused without thinking. Lung Ruashua, on the other hand, choked on her words. She wanted to cry. She had wanted to be Ice Spirit's intimate sister for a long time. She had been waiting for him to take the initiative to come and confess to her. Who knew that this guy was not aware of it at all? Now it seemed that she had to take the initiative. After settling the matter with Bing Pe, she planned to go into seclusion. Before that, she had to settle the matter with Bing Yao, or she would be worried about Bing Yao. However, Ice Spirit was not cooperative at all. Is there something? What do you want? You're so bored that you're looking at the sky. After giving Ice Spirit a disdainful look, Lung Ruoxue said in a domineering tone, "Even if there's something, you have to put it down. We have to have a good talk." Serious? Looking at Lung Ruoxue's serious expression, Ice Soul was very worried. He did not want to talk to Lung Ruoxue. This was because he was very clear about what the other party wanted to talk to him about. However, he wasn't prepared to let Bing Yao know about it. If he told Lung Ruoxue, he felt that it would be the same as telling Bing Yao, "Can we not talk?" The Ice Spirit made a last-ditch struggle, hoping to buy itself some time. The longer the better. Undeniably, he was an ostrich. Lung Ruoxue only shook her head and smiled without saying a word. Ice Spirit could only smile bitterly. "Let's talk then." Lung Ruoxue gave Ice Spirit a knowing look before she smiled and said, "Then explain. You should have already guessed it, right?" Ice Spirit wasn't a fool. Even though Lung Ruoxue didn't ask anything during this period of time, her expression of knowing the truth revealed everything. There were even times when the dragon whale and the others would look at him and Bing Yao with deep confusion and helplessness. This had also made him even more worried, which was why he only asked this question now. Lung Ruoxue continued to smile and did not say anything. "Just as you thought, the Ice Phoenix is indeed my son. I also didn't expect that after so many years, it still hasn't reached adulthood. This is all my fault." Infinite Ice Soul reproached himself. "Why don't you acknowledge it?" Lung Ruoxue finally asked. In fact, she had already guessed the reason, but she still wanted to hear it from Ice Spirit. "You also know that I've let it down for what happened back then. Now that it's like this, you can say that I'm very responsible. So I really can't tell it that I'm its biological father and that I'm the one who caused it to be like this." Ice Spirit said bitterly, "Do you think you can hide this forever? You should know that paper can't hide fire. Bing, you will find out about this sooner or later, and I think it's better for you to tell him yourself than for him to find out by himself. After all, I don't think you want him to hear the truth from others, right?" Lung Ruoxue reminded him. "Thanks, I understand what you mean, but I really can't bring myself to say it." Ice Spirit said like an ostrich, "Sometimes, the more you care about something, the more you're afraid of losing it." He didn't want Bing Yi to know the truth about her background and didn't want to see his heartless father anymore. So, he would rather Bing Yi knew nothing about it. Even if she still called him uncle, at least he could see Bing Yi every day. "I think you don't need to say anything," Lung Ruoxue suddenly said without rhyme or reason. Ice Soul heaved a sigh of relief when he heard her words. However, he soon felt that something was wrong. He raised his head and looked at Lung Ruoxue. He then followed her gaze and looked to the side. Ice Spirit's eyes widened. "Bing Yao, when did you wake up?" Bing Po's heart beat faster as she asked the question. She stared at Bing Yao uneasily. Bing Yao's icy blue eyes were also staring at Bing Po in disbelief. Tears slowly welled up in her eyes as she asked with a choked voice, "Are you my father?" "I am," Ice Spirit replied calmly. Bing Yao had unintentionally discovered this matter. Bing Po calmed down and looked at Lung Ruoxue with a complicated expression. He believed that this little girl must have discovered that Bing Yao had woken up long ago, but she didn't tell him. "Sob, this is great, I've been caught." Bing Po's expression was as if it was the end of the world. He looked at Bing Yao's teary eyes. When he saw the tears flowing down Bing Yao's fluffy face, he wanted to hug Bing Yao and comfort her. However, Bing Yao took a big step back and rejected his hug. She then jumped into Lung Ruoxue's arms to seek comfort. At this moment, Ice Spirit was burning with jealousy. Bing Yao was his son. Now that it knew about its past, it was just as it had worried about, unwilling to let it hug it. Wah! The old Qilin, Ice Spirit, had tears streaming down her face as she glared at Lung Ruoxue, who had snatched her son away, with fire spewing out of her eyes. Lung Ruoxue was extremely calm in the face of Bing Pio's anger. She then gently stroked Bing Pi's soft fur, comforting the pitiful little girl who was obviously hurt. Senior, I've known Bing Yao for a longer time than you, and I was the one who saved it when it was injured. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to see it now. Lung Ruoxue explained indifferently. Bing Yao was injured before? Ice Spirit asked worriedly. She was no longer jealous when she heard the word injured. Yup, when I first saw it, it was sleeping just like you. I was the one who saved it. Lung Ruoxue added. Who did this? Knowing that her son had recovered, Ice Spirit naturally cared about the culprit. I don't know. Lung Ruoxue looked at Bing Yao and said irresponsibly. Bing Yao, who did this? Seeing that he couldn't get anything from Lung Ruoxue, Bing Po could only ask Bing Yao. However, Bing Yao didn't give Ice Soul any face and said angrily, None of your business. Bing Yao. His words broke Bing Pio's heart. My son won't let me take care of him. Is there anything more hurtful than this? He thought. Since you abandoned me back then, don't even think about acknowledging me again. Bing Yao continued, as if the blow to Bing Po wasn't enough. Upon hearing this, Ice Spirit could not help but take 2 steps back. His face turned pale. Had he completely lost his Ice Phoenix? Bing Yao didn't even call him Strange Uncle anymore. Woo! Ice Spirit suddenly felt that his world had turned dark. At this moment, he even felt that he might as well not wake up. In that case, his heart would not hurt so much. Chapter 2787. Heart-to-heart talk between father and son 3. However, it was too late to say anything now. Bing Yao wouldn't recognize him even if he was here. The heartbroken Ice Soul's originally clear eyes had become dull after the blow. In just a moment, his face was frighteningly pale. Then, Ice Soul, who felt a suffocating feeling in his chest, clearly felt a warm current surging up his throat. Lung Ruoxue saw that Bing had been dealt a heavy blow, and Bing Yao was extremely hostile towards her. She had no choice but to leave with Bing Yao for the time being. Once they left, Bing Pa spat out a mouthful of blood and fell limply beside the stone table. For a long time, Ice Soul just sat there in a daze. Chief, what's wrong? After an unknown period of time, the Qilin Great Elder came to find his clan leader. He happened to see the clan leader covered in blood and falling to the ground in an extremely sorry state. At that moment, he was almost scared to death. However, the Ice Spirit didn't respond to his concern. The Qilin First Elder was so depressed that he almost hit his head against a wall. What was wrong with the clan leader? He did not believe that anyone in Demon City could harm the clan leader. But how could he explain the clan leader's current appearance? No, he had to look for Lung Ruoxue to think of a solution. After all, this was her territory. When the Great Elder of the Qilin clan found Lung Ruoxue with burning anxiety and informed her of this matter, Lung Ruoxue was stunned. She didn't expect that the powerful-looking Ice Spirit couldn't even withstand this much. She worriedly looked at Bing Yao, who was also silent. Lung Ruoxue called Song over and asked him to help look after Bing Yao for the time being. Then, she followed the Qilin Great Elder to check on Ice Spirit. When they arrived at Ice Spirit's residence, Lung Ruoxue immediately gave him a healing pill. Then, she asked the Great Elder of the Qilin clan to help him into his room. At first, the Qilin clan's Great Elder wanted to guard his clan head. However, he was forcefully dragged out of the room by Lung Ruoxue. What this father and son needed the most now was to be alone. All unrelated people were to leave. However, the Qilin First Elder did not know what had happened, nor did he understand Lung Ruo's painstaking efforts. So, after being pulled out of the room, this First Elder, who had a good personality, was completely furious. Young Lady Lung, what's wrong with our clan leader? Your Demon City must give me an explanation, or else my Qilin clan will not be finished. The Qilin Great Elder roared. You really want an explanation? What if I say that this is your clan head's private matter, and I can't disclose it before he says anything? Lung Ruoxue asked calmly, her attitude saying that she would tell him if he wanted to know. This made Great Elder Qilin even more uncertain. Is it really a private matter, the clan leader? You weren't attacked? The Qilin Grand Elder asked uncertainly. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she laughed instead of getting angry. Who do you think can attack him here? If they were really attacked, why didn't you guys hear anything? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Ugh. The Grand Elder was a little embarrassed. Although he had already expected that the clan leader would not have been attacked, he still felt uneasy without knowing the truth. Now that Lung Ruoxue was using the clan head's private matter as an excuse to not tell him, it would not be good if he insisted on knowing. After some thought, the Qilin Great Elder compromised and asked Lung Ruoxue to guarantee that the clan leader would be fine. Only then would he be at ease. After dealing with the troublesome Great Elder Qilin, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly returned to her residence. When Blue One saw that she had returned, he immediately disappeared to accompany the Blood Lotus flower in his cultivation. As for Lung Ruoxue, she first looked at the silent Bing Yao before sitting down beside it silently. For the next few days, Bing Yao refused to speak. Lung Ruoxue did not think of any way to make it happy either. She only quietly accompanied Bing Yao as if she was invisible. Little Shue, should I forgive him and acknowledge him? After an unknown period of time, Bing Yao's voice finally entered Lung Ruoxue's ears. After Lung Ruoxue heard this, she stroked the soft fur of the ice phoenix and smiled. Just ask your own heart. Why did he abandon me? Since you've abandoned me back then, why are you still pretending to find me? When she thought of this, Bing Yao was still a little resentful. It's a bit complicated, so let him tell you himself. However, what I want to tell you is that even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. He is your biological father, and he would not have done that if he had not been forced to. However, I don't ask you to understand his actions, I just hope that you don't hate him. After all, it's not easy for him either. For tens of thousands of years, he has been seriously injured and in a coma. The moment he woke up, he wanted to know your whereabouts. So he loves you. Lung Ruoxue replied honestly. As a matter of fact, if she was in Bing Yi's position, she wouldn't easily forgive her parents who had abandoned her. However, Bing Pa did that not because he didn't love Bing Yi. He had chosen to give up some of his personal things for the sake of justice. A person like this would be a good leader, but he would never be a good husband or father. Therefore, as his relatives, they were often the most wronged. Thanks, however, as a bystander, could she blame Ice Spirit for this? The answer was no. Not only that, but in some ways, she admired Ice Spirit's courage. After all, not everyone could be as unyielding as him. Because of this, she really hoped that this father and son could sit down and have a good talk. The one who had caused the incident back then was actually Wu Ling. Both father and son were innocent. Of course, Bing Jie was the most innocent one. No matter how much Bing Pa suffered, Lung Ruoxue would never stand on his side. After all, Bing Jie and Lung Ruoxue had a deeper relationship. With that thought in mind, Lung Ruoxue spoke again. Bing Yao, talk to him. Even though you weren't born at that time, as the person involved, you have the right to know the truth. Okay, they'll listen to little Shueshu. Bing Yao nodded. It also wanted to know why it was abandoned. Seeing that Bing Yao had agreed, Lung Ruoxue immediately nodded to Bing Pa, who had been standing guard outside the courtyard. Seeing this, Bing Pa immediately walked in with large strides. He had heard the entire conversation between Lung Ruoxue and Bing Yao. He also knew that this was an opportunity Lung Ruoxue had given him. Hence, he was naturally unwilling to give it up. Lung Ruoxue considerately gave the place to the father and son before turning around and leaving. Bing Yao raised her head and looked at Bing Pa in disbelief. How did this old man become so haggard after not seeing him for a few days? Ice Spirit's face was full of worry. His eyes were bloodshot and his clothes were crumpled. He looked like a homeless man. It was a sharp contrast to his previous self-assured and arrogant demeanor. I want to know the truth, Bing Yao coldly said after feeling a slight pain in her heart. Yes, I will tell you everything. Ice Spirit nodded and continued, tens of thousands of years ago, the divine realm was originally thriving. Although there was not much harmony between the various races, at least they did not interfere with each other. However, one day, a person's ambition destroyed all of this. She caused the entire god world to be plunged into misery and suffering, causing the various races to kill each other. In the beginning, our Chilean clan was the calmest one, but not long after, the flames of war also spread to our side. Who's that bad guy? Bing Yao suddenly interrupted. Rhyme, the current god lord. All the disasters that happened back then were caused by her, and our family separation was all because of her. At that time, Wu Yin had basically already subdued the other 3 King Divine Beast clans. As for our Chilean clan, she had never shown any signs of approaching us. Later on, she thought of a plan to lure me out of the clan and then brought people to sneak into the clan to steal you. I Spirit stopped and waited for Bing Yao to ask. And then, I was stolen? Bing Yao asked as expected. Yes, you were stolen. When I realized that I had been tricked and rushed back to the clan, it was already too late. I let you down. I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a father and protect you well. I Spirit said sadly. So, you're saying that you didn't abandon me intentionally? Bing Yao asked carefully. Although it had only had its master by its side since it was born, that did not mean that it did not want to know who its parents were. However, when it was in the Hao-Ian continent, it was the only Chilean in that world, so it couldn't find its roots even if it wanted to. Now that it had come to the immortal realm and accidentally found out that it had a father, but had been abandoned by its father, one could imagine the shock it had suffered. However, after learning some of the truth, it realized that things didn't seem to be what it had imagined, so it was a little confused again. She wasn't abandoned on purpose, and the culprit was someone else. Was that right? Father didn't want to abandon him. Father loved it, didn't he? Bing Yao raised her head and looked at Bing Pa expectantly, hoping that he could answer her question. Facing Bing Yao's hopeful eyes, Bing Pa hesitated for a long time before he took a deep breath and answered honestly. I didn't mean to lose you at that time. But later, that bitch, Wu Yin, used you to threaten me and wanted me to lead the Chilean clan to pledge loyalty to her. I refused. Bing Pa used a lot of strength to force out the truth. He looked at Bing Yao uneasily. But Bing Yao was unusually silent after hearing this, which made Bing Pa even more nervous. Ice Spirit's heart was beating like a drum, and she stood there helplessly like a prisoner waiting to be interrogated. His eyes were glued to Bing Yao's body without even blinking. He wished he could see Bing Yao's reaction at the first moment. However, Bing Yao was still sitting there in silence. Bing Yao, Bing Pa called. The longer they stayed, the more uneasy he felt. That scoundrel flew into a rage out of humiliation because of your rejection, so he threw me down to the lower realm, right? After a long time, Bing Yao finally gave a response. Chapter 2788. Any condition? 1. Yes, because of my rejection, that bitch, Wu Yin, was so embarrassed that she threw you down to the lower realm. Bingy, you should hate me. I'm sorry, I didn't protect you. Ice Spirit took a deep breath and said guiltily. Then, she looked at Bing Yao nervously, but Bing Yao didn't say anything. At this moment, it did not know what to do. After knowing the truth, its heart was in a mess, like a ball of hemp tangled together. Should it be hated? Its own father had given up on it in order not to be controlled by that bad guy. It should hate him, right? However, as a proud Chilean, it could somewhat understand the choice its father had made back then. The noble Chilean should not be controlled by others. Rhyme ice, right? If it had a chance to see that bad guy in the future, it would definitely bite her, who asked her to use herself to threaten others. At this moment, Bing Yao didn't know whether she should forgive her father or not. Instead, she hated Wu Yao. After thinking about this, Bing Yao couldn't help but ask, "What about my mother?" Bing Yao didn't dare to ask if his mother was dead or alive, because the father in front of him had never mentioned anything about his mother from the beginning to the end. But now he had to ask. In order to protect you, it was killed by the fog. Many of our clansmen also died at the hands of Wu Cheng. After a long silence, Ice Spirit said, "Dead? Mother is dead. There are also many clansmen." Bing Yao's large blue eyes were filled with tears as she sobbed. Is it all to protect me? Bing Yao continued to ask. Yes. In order to protect you, our clansmen have either died or been injured, so I really can't let them suffer any more injuries because of you. Bing Yao, I didn't want to give up on you, but I had no choice back then. As the Qilin clan leader, I can't let my clan suffer an even greater blow because of my personal matters. So, I can only let you down. Ice Spirit was also sobbing. You did nothing wrong. I'm a sinner of the Qilin race. After hearing this, Bing Yao suddenly said, No, you're not. I'm too useless as a father. I can't even protect my own wife and child. I've let you down. Even if you hate me even more after knowing all this, I won't blame you. Bing Pa couldn't bear to see Bing Yao blame himself. After all, it had nothing to do with Bing Yao. It was his fault as a father. How could he make Bing Yao feel guilty? I don't blame you, and I don't hate you. Bing Yao raised her head and said with a worried expression. Bing Yao. Bing Pa was happy to hear that. But from Bing Yao's expression, he knew that the little guy didn't forgive him. It just didn't blame him, but it didn't want to acknowledge him as its father. I want to be alone. Bing Yao said, All right then. If there's anything else you can't figure out, you can come and ask me at any time. He'll tell you everything. Afraid that Bing Yao would go to a dead end, Bing Pa quickly added. As for Bing Yao, she only nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. She lowered her head and continued to lie down. Ice Spirit sighed and left. He had told her most of what he needed to say. Now, he could only wait for Bing Yao to figure it out. Thanks. Once he was out of the courtyard, he saw Lung Ruoxue who had been standing guard at the entrance. He nodded at her and said, Little girl, I've said what I needed to say. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Bing Yao. If it wants to see me, please send someone to inform me. Then, Ice Spirit left helplessly. As she watched Ice Spirit's back view, Lung Ruoxue thought to herself, So they haven't made up yet? After that, she walked into the courtyard and saw that the Ice Phoenix had returned to its normal state. It was lying alone on the stone table, and the surrounding air was stained with its sadness, making it seem particularly bleak and desolate. Walking forward, Lung Ruoxue gently stroked the soft fur on the Ice Phoenix's body, wanting to give it silent comfort. At this moment, Bing Yao also raised her head and pounced into Lung Ruoxue's arms with tears in her eyes. She hugged Lung Ruoxue's neck tightly and refused to let go. The Ice Phoenix's hooves were hugging Lung Ruoxue tightly, and Lung Ruoxue could feel the moisture on her neck. Sighing, Lung Ruoxue could only pat its back lightly. For the next few days, Bing Yao stayed in Lung Ruoxue's arms and refused to leave. When Tsang saw this scene, other than snorting coldly, he didn't forcefully pull the annoying and eyesore little Qilin out of Lung Ruoxue's arms. Who asked this little Qilin to be sad at this moment? The fact that Bing Yao was sad and sought Lung Ruoxue's comfort was definitely a big blow to Bing Pa. However, he was powerless to do anything about it, so he could only sneak a few glances from time to time before hiding back in his own residence to drink with jealousy. Later on, it was the Qilin Great Elder who felt that something was wrong, as if something they didn't know had happened. However, the rather smart First Elder Qilin didn't let his thoughts run wild. Instead, he went to find his family patriarch. This time, Bing Pa didn't hide anything and told him Bing Yao's identity. When First Elder heard this, his eyes immediately widened and he said in disbelief, Clan leader, you should be happy that you found the little prince. Why are you still frowning? Of course I want to be happy, but Bing Yao doesn't want to acknowledge me. Do you think I should be happy? Ice Spirit replied helplessly. Blood is thicker than water. How could the little prince not recognize you? Clan leader, is there a misunderstanding? Or does the little prince still not know his identity? The Qilin Great Elder guessed. I've already told it the truth, and there was no misunderstanding. It also said that it doesn't blame me, but it still refuses to acknowledge me. Ice Spirit said helplessly. Little prince, it knows what happened back then. First Elder immediately asked. I know, and I also know that I was the one who gave up on it back then. Ice Spirit said honestly. Clan leader, how would you say this? No wonder the little prince refused to acknowledge you after hearing this. If it were me, I wouldn't acknowledge you either. When First Elder heard this, he immediately became worried. The clan leader was too honest. He had not acknowledged his son yet, so how could he explain everything? According to his thoughts, the most important thing was to let the little prince return to the Qilin clan first. As for the rest, we'll talk about it later. However, Bing Jiu wouldn't do what the first elder thought. He hoped that he and his son didn't have any grudges. Otherwise, if Bing Yao heard about this from someone else, the consequences would be even worse. It should not recognize me. After all, I haven't fulfilled my responsibility as a father for tens of thousands of years. What right do I have to make it acknowledge me now? Ice Spirit said calmly. The Qilin Great Elder didn't know what to say after hearing the patriarch's words. After that, he bade farewell and left. He pondered for a long time before he went to look for Lung Ruoxue on his own. Chapter 2789. Any condition? 2. However, when he arrived at Lung Ruoxue's residence and saw her, most of his attention was focused on Bing Yao. He really looked like the clan leader. The Qilin Great Elder pondered to himself. In fact, when this little Qilin first came to the Qilin clan, he had already felt that something was wrong. After all, the clan leader treated it too specially. However, he didn't think too much about it at that time. Now everything was clear. This little fellow was their little prince. But why was the little prince being carried by a human all day? Seeing that Bing Yao was still in Lung Ruoxue's arms, First Elder was a little jealous. He changed his mind and said to Lung Ruoxue, "Miss Lung, can I take a look at the little prince? Haven't you already seen it?" Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and said innocently, I just want to take a good look." The Great Elder said helplessly, but he was thinking in his heart, "I'm in your arms. Can this even be considered looking?" He still wanted to have a good relationship with the little prince. When Lung Ruoxue heard the Qilin Grand Elder's words, she did not immediately reply to him. She only patted Bing Chan's back and asked softly, "Bing Yao, the Great Elder Qilin wants to take a good look at you. Will you let him?" A 1T. No one was allowed to see. "I'm not a monkey in the zoo. What's there to see?" Upon hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Bing Yao, who had her head lowered, spoke with a burning rage. "Don't be like this, all right?" Upon hearing this, the first elder of the Qilin clan was extremely worried. How could he ask this? "See, you made the little prince angry, right?" However, before the great elder of the Qilin clan could correct Lung Ruoxue had changed the topic. This was because Lung Ruoxue then turned to First Elder Qilin and said with a smile, "Great Elder, you've come at the right time. I have something to discuss with you." What's the matter?" The Great Elder of the Qilin clan had been led astray by Lung Ruoxue. At this moment, he had even forgotten the purpose of his visit. He only looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of vigilance, afraid that she would make some excessive requests. "Don't you Qilin clansmen have too much free time recently?" Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Then, without waiting for First Elder's reply, she continued, "I plan to arrange some work for them. Otherwise, they'll be eaten up by them in the long run. So, let them work while they're in Demon City to cover the cost of their food and lodging. What do you think, Great Elder? What do you think? Could he refuse?" The Qilin Great Elder couldn't help but mutter to himself. He believed that as long as he refused, this little girl in front of him would definitely immediately tell him, "Then please do as you please. I really can't afford to support you." Therefore, the Great Elder Qilin, who had no intention of leaving, would never let Lung Ruoxue have her way. Hence, he tactfully nodded his head and said, "I have no objections. Miss Lung, whatever you want them to do, just arrange it. Then I won't be polite." Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly, "You were originally prepared to be polite. So what?" The Great Elder of the Qilin clan looked at Lung Ruoxue with disdain and started to complain again. Then, afraid that Lung Ruoxue would make another request, the Qilin Grand Elder was so frightened that he immediately turned around and left. It was only after he left the courtyard that he suddenly recalled that he had not completed his main task and had instead allowed Lung Ruoxue to take advantage of him. "Thanks, you bastard. When would he stop being led by the nose by that little girl?" The first elder of the Qilin clan was very worried. However, it was too late for him to come to sorrowful Mulberry now. Afraid that a long delay would bring more trouble, Lung Ruoxue quickly informed Uncle Long that she had obtained the approval of Ice Soul and the Qilin First Elder. She could now arrange work for the Qilin clan. As for the acting clan leader of the Fire Yu, he was automatically ignored by Lung Ruoxue. When Uncle Long heard this, he immediately reported the lack of manpower to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue would then make the arrangements, and Uncle Long would carry them out. Soon, the Kirin, who was as curious as Granny Lu, finally had something to do. Of course, Lung Ruoxue's action of arranging work for them had once caused some of the Qilins to be dissatisfied. This was because a considerable number of Qilins felt that they were just guests. So how could they arrange work for them? They were not from Demon City. After Lung Ruoxue found out what they were thinking, she only asked Uncle Long to tell them that those who did not want to work could leave Demon City immediately. After that, all the Qilins became well-behaved. Of course, they weren't being honest just because of Lung Ruoxue's words. The moment Lung Ruoxue said that, many of the Qilins immediately went to look for their Grand Elder, hoping that the Grand Elder would make the decision for them. However, the Grand Elder could only regretfully tell them that this matter had been approved by their clan leader. In other words, you have to do it even if you agree or disagree. He had no choice. When the unwilling Qilins heard this, they didn't dare to get angry anymore. They could only obediently let Uncle Long arrange it. After settling the Qilin clan's work, Lung Ruoxue looked at Bing Yao, who was still in a low state, and her mood became heavy again. Originally, she had awakened the ice dragon in hopes that it would be happy, but now it had become so sad. This was obviously not what she wanted to see. Lung Ruoxue, who felt that she should have a deep conversation with Bing Yao, immediately put her thoughts into action after making this decision. After placing Bing Yao, who had been hugging her tightly and refusing to let go, on a chair, Lung Ruoxue faced her. Bing Yao, let's talk. Lung Ruoxue said directly. I don't want to talk, Bing Yao said in a soft voice as she closed her eyes. Bing Yao, do you plan to continue like this? Tell me, what are you really thinking? Lung Ruoxue didn't allow Bing Yao to be a coward, so she held his little head and made him look at her. I don't know, my heart is in a mess, Bing Yao said, somewhat at a loss. Do you still hate him for not choosing you back then? Lung Ruoxue went straight to the core of the problem. No, I don't hate him anymore. If it were me, for the sake of my pride as a Qilin, I'm afraid I would also make the same choice. However, from my own point of view, I couldn't accept his choice so quickly. I need some time, Bing Yao said honestly. I can understand. Bing Yi, tell me, have you ever thought about your parents all these years? Lung Ruoxue could empathize with Bing Yao's feelings. After all, humans are like that. Without experiencing it personally, one would never be able to understand the pain of helplessness. Once one had experienced it, it was not easy to forget it. I've thought about it occasionally. In fact, many beasts have never seen their parents when they were born. On the Haotian continent, many beasts grew up with their masters, and they have never even seen what their parents look like. Therefore, beasts like us don't need parents as much as those who grew up in our own tribe. Even so, I couldn't help but think of my parents and why I'm the only Qilin on the Haotian continent. Now I know I was stolen, Bing Yao said sadly. Originally, I should be very happy to know that I was stolen and not abandoned by my parents. But when I think of my father, I can't be happy, because from a certain perspective, I have indeed been abandoned. So, I can't get past this barrier. I have no choice, Bing Yao continued after sighing. Chapter 2790. Any condition? 3. Bing Yi, I can understand what you're saying. In fact, the Isoul clan leader chose to give up on you because he wanted the Qilin in his clan to live with dignity. He's worthy of respect, but he did you wrong. It's only right that you don't forgive me. No one will blame you, so I really hope that you can still be a happy Ice Phoenix like before. Let all these unhappy things pass. Lung Ruoxue consoled. Can I really go over? Bing Yao said with uncertainty. As long as you want to, Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. Little Xue, I also want to be as carefree as before, but why can't I be happy now? Bing Yao was confused again. Let go or forgive. Bing Yao, you only have these two choices now. So, don't make things difficult for yourself. and be yourself. If you can't forgive him, then just ignore him and treat him as a passerby or a stranger. Don't let him affect your life. Lung Ruoxue replied calmly. What if I can't do it? Bing Yao tilted her head as she asked Lung Ruoxue. Then we can only forgive him and let the past be in the past. It's been tens of thousands of years, and Ice Spirit really does love you. Otherwise, she wouldn't want to know where you were the moment she woke up. Lung Ruoxue reminded. Little Xue, my heart is in a mess. Let me think about it. Bing Yao said in pain. And quickly sort out all of this and let me see the ice phoenix from the past. Lung Ruoxue caressed Bing Yao's little head as she spoke in a pained tone. After Lung Ruoxue had said everything she needed to say, she did not disturb Bing Yao anymore. She did not keep Bing Yao company like she did a few days ago, because she knew that Bing Yao needed some time alone at this moment. For the next few days, Lung Ruoxue deliberately did not go to see Bing Yi, and Bing Yi did not appear in front of her. It was only later that she found out that Bing Yi had actually left home alone. This made her feel worried and blamed herself. When Uncle Long realized Lung Ruoxue's worry, he chuckled and told her that Ice Soul had been secretly following Bing Yao. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue finally fell at ease. With the Ice Spirit, he believed that Bing Yao would not encounter any danger. Bing Yao, who had run away from home, had not actually gone far. It knew that it wasn't very powerful, so it had never left Demon City's sphere of influence. Since most of the humans and beasts in Demon City knew it, it was like a fish in water in the city. However, it obviously didn't want to attract anyone's attention, so it went to places with fewer people. The place it was currently at was a cliff. Standing on a large rock on the cliff, Bing Yao looked around aimlessly. Then his eyes slid down the cliff to the edge of the cliff. The ice phoenix came down from the rock and walked toward the cliff step by step. Then its four hooves rose in the air and it jumped straight down the cliff. Little Bing, don't. The moment Bing Yao jumped down, a blue figure quickly pounced in Bing Yao's direction and extended its arm to catch Bing Yao in time. Xiao what are you doing? Let me go. Seeing that she was being hugged, Bing Yao was a little angry. Not letting go. Little Bing, don't take things too hard. Lan Lai said worriedly as he hugged Bing Yao tightly. You bastard. You're the one who can't accept it. Your whole family can't accept it. Bing Yao was furious. Who had ever heard of cultivators dying from falling off a cliff? It just wanted to feel its speed being at a disadvantage. But not only was someone causing trouble, they actually thought it was taking things too hard. Did it look like it couldn't get over it? The more she thought about it, the angrier Bing Yao became. She struggled in Lan Lai's arms. It was already dangerous for Lan Lai to hold on to Bing Yao because one of his legs was already in the air. Now that Bing Yao was struggling, Lan Lai lost his balance and fell down the cliff with Bing Yao in his arms. This time, Lan Lai was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. While Bing Yao got what he wanted, the wind whistled by his ears, causing Lan Lai's tender cheeks to hurt. He had to try his best to maintain his balance so that he and Bing Yao would not fall too badly. Bing Yao, however, did not care about that. As the wind whistled past his ears, Bing Yao excitedly patted his hooves. Hurry up. Faster. Bing Yao urged Lan Lai. It was obvious that he wasn't happy with the speed of Lan Lai's descent. Little Bing, can you stop? We're going to fall to our deaths. Lan Lai was speechless. How could little Bing still be so happy after falling from such a deep cliff? He really couldn't understand. However, Bing Yao didn't care so much and only said with a face of disdain, You should be the one falling to your death. As the great Qilin, how can I fall to my death? Besides, if it wasn't for you, I would have felt the speed of the wind. Thanks. Bing Yao's words hurt Lan Lai. After a long time, Lan Lai whispered, I'm just concerned about you. I'm afraid you stop. I really didn't want to commit suicide. Before Lan Lai could finish, Bing Jie interrupted him. Then Bing Yao sighed again. When would this guy be as understanding as little Xue? AI. He was really stupid. However, it was undeniable that Lan Lai's actions had lifted its heavy mood. At this moment, a pained cry suddenly rang out in Bing Yao's ear. He looked down and saw that they had already reached the bottom of the cliff. Landlai was currently sitting on his, but in an extremely ugly position. Little Bing Bing, you've gotten fatter. It's so heavy. Landlai nudged Bing ease, but speechless. Bing Yao really knew how to sit, and he just happened to sit on his face. Woo! Although he liked Bing Yao very much, he didn't like her to the point that he was willing to let her sit on his face. This fact made Lan Lai very worried. Bing Yao, who was about to laugh at Lan Lai's misfortune, immediately exploded when he heard Lan Lai say he was fat. You're the one who's gained weight. Your whole family has gained weight. You bastard. No one was allowed to say it was fat. If they said it was fat, little Shue would not hold it. Lan Lai was speechless. Why did it have such a big reaction when he said it was fat? After a moment of silence, Lan Lai reminded her, Little Bing Bing, it doesn't matter if you're fat or not. I think you should get off me first, and we can discuss how to get up. Why do we have to go up? I think the view down here is quite good, so I've decided to stay here for a while. Bing Yao said seriously as he looked around. He then stood up from Lan Lai's body. What's good about the scenery here? Hearing this, Lan Lai glanced around casually, depressed. The bottom of the cliff was bare and barren. What scenery was there to see? Moreover, as far as he knew, Demon City had been destroyed by a person called Rhymice, so the bottom of the cliff was even more chaotic. There were broken stones everywhere, and there was nothing to see. However, Bing Yao clearly didn't think so and decided to stay here for a while. However, the truth was that the distance between the bottom of the cliff and the top was too high. It couldn't go up. Therefore, he could only stay here with this fool and wait for help. Woo! This was a mistake. The cliff didn't look deep, and the surrounding mountains were man-made. But who knew that it would be deceived by the facts it saw with its eyes? However, he couldn't let that idiot Lan Lai know that he had been tricked. Otherwise, he would definitely laugh at him. What made Bing Yao even angrier was that the little fool, Lan Lai, actually wanted the two of them to go up themselves. With their strength, it would be strange if they could go up. At this moment, Bing Yao truly hated that her strength was too low. It must be known that since little Shue left the Haotian continent, its strength had not improved much. Of course, this was also largely due to its master's injuries that had not yet recovered, but its own neglect and cultivation was also the main reason. So now, it was stuck on a cliff. Oh my God, who would save it? She didn't want to be with an idiot anymore. Seeing Lan Lai running around her like an ant on a hot pan, Bing Yao really wanted to kick him far away. This guy was really in the way. However, they were still comrades in the trenches, so Bing Yao had shown mercy. However, Lan Lai was not aware of any of this. As he was walking around, he suddenly heard a strange sound. He was so frightened that he quickly hugged Bing Yao tightly. He said with a trembling voice, Little Bing Bing, there's a ghost. With a bang, Bing Yao's hoof landed on Lan Lai's head. With a face full of disappointment, he roared, Ghost your head. It was the wind, the sound of the wind. Look at how cowardly you are. You've lost all men's face. Was it the wind? Are you sure? Lan Lai still didn't believe it. I'm sure. Bing Yao spat out the word through gritted teeth. Seeing how confident it was, Lan Lai relaxed a little. He patted his chest and said, It's good that it's the wind. It's so scary. Hearing this, Bing Yao couldn't bear it anymore and rolled his eyes. Then, he raised his head and roared, Heavens! If anyone can save me at this time, I'm willing to agree to any conditions. As long as I can do it. It really couldn't stand this disgraceful Lan Lai anymore. However, it was obvious that no one would come to save it because no one knew it was here. Just as it was thinking this, a low voice sounded in its ear. Really? Any condition? Bing Jie and Lan Lai were both stunned when they heard the voice. There was really someone there? But when they looked up at the direction of the voice at the same time, neither man nor beast could speak. Lan Lai was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 2791. Ice Spirit's Decision. 1. Wasn't this the patriarch of the Qilin race? He didn't do anything. This clan leader wasn't here to teach him a lesson, right? In an instant, Lan Lai's imagination ran wild. He couldn't help but feel his heart tremble. So terrifying. At this moment, the Chelan clan leader's imposing manner that was not angry, but still powerful was quite frightening. Lamlai didn't think he had done anything wrong, but he couldn't help but feel fear when facing a powerful man like the Chelan clan leader. As for Bing Yao, she had never thought that she would see the Chelan clan leader here. She had said those words earlier, so it seemed like she couldn't escape this time. However, for some reason, it suddenly felt relieved. "I'm a man of my word," Bing Yao said in a low voice. "He'll do anything you want. Remember your words." Bing Pa smiled faintly. Then he picked up Bing Jia with one hand and Lan Lai by the collar with the other. He left the bottom of the cliff with the confused man and beast. Seeing the ice spirit's unusual gentleness to Bing Yao, Lan Lai felt very indignant. Why was it that other people had to carry the ice phoenix, while he had to be carried like luggage? This posture was really too ugly. Lan Lai wanted to protest, but he didn't dare to. Woo. He admitted it. Who asked him to be the Chelan clan leader? To treat a human like him, who was obviously an eyesore, this was already quite good. Lan Lai tried to comfort himself. Soon, the ice spirit brought the man and the beast up from the bottom of the cliff. After being rescued, Lan Lai smiled at Ice Soul and said, "Thank you for saving my life, Chelan clan leader. You recognize me?" Hearing this, Ice Spirit raised her eyebrows and said in disbelief. He had followed Bing Jia all the way and found that this human little guy was also following his child. He naturally paid more attention to Lan Lai. After seeing that this little guy had no ill intentions toward Bing Jia, he was relieved. But now, Ice Spirit could not help but examine Lan Lai. Lan Lai, on the other hand, was a little depressed after hearing Ice Spirit's words. According to Lan Lai's thinking, you're the leader of the Chelan clan, so it's hard not to know you. However, he did not expect Ice Spirit to ask, "Do you know me? Shouldn't I recognize him?" After a while, Lan Lai said with unusual respect, "I've met Senior a few times, but Senior doesn't seem to remember any of them." "Oh, if that's the case, you should also be a friend of that little girl Lung Ruoxue." Ice Spirit nodded. He thought that he was very low-key and had only shown his face in that girl's house. This little fellow in front of him recognized him, so he naturally had some relationship with Lung Ruoxue. "Yup, I met her on the Haotian continent, and we're good friends." Afraid that Ice Spirit would still doubt his words, Lan Lai quickly explained. "I see." Ice Spirit nodded and continued. "However, your strength can't be compared to that little girl's." Lan Lai burst into tears. Was that guy even human? She's a pervert. Gritting his teeth, Lan Lai said with grief and indignation. "Ha ha, you're quite an interesting little fellow." Upon hearing Lan Lai's words, Bing Pa burst out laughing. It seemed like Lung Ruoxue's friends knew her well. Lan Lai was little embarrassed by the praise from the Chelan clan leader. This made Ice Spirit laugh wildly. After a while, Bing Pa turned to Bing Yao and stared at her. Bing Yao was a little annoyed by his gaze and couldn't help but roar. "Why are you looking at me? I've never seen him before. Thanks, how detestable. Don't look at it." Bing Yao was so depressed that he wanted to bite someone. "What do you think he'll ask for?" Ice Spirit asked with a smile after a moment of silence. "Do you want me to recognize you as my father? He'll just admit it," Bing Yao said with a long face. It was a beastie that kept its promises. Since it had said it would do it, it knew very well that this was what its cheap father wanted the most, so it could only agree. However, after agreeing, Bing Yao realized that it was not as difficult as he had imagined. It was as if everything had come to pass naturally. However, Ice Spirit shook his head. "That is what I wish for the most. However, I don't want to use this opportunity to threaten you. I hope that you can call me father sincerely and not out of some promise." "I am being sincere," Bing Yao said in a small voice. "Oh, really? Ask your heart," Ice Spirit reminded. Bing Yao didn't say anything. She lowered her head as if she was thinking about something. Lan Lai's mouth was half open when he heard the conversation between the two Chelans. He was completely unable to react. Did he hear some inside story or gossip? They were father and son? Why didn't he look like one at all? More importantly, this fact was too unexpected. Bing Yi, who also came from the Haotian continent like him, had nothing to do with the chief of the Qilin clan in the divine realm. Lanlai couldn't figure it out, but he was afraid that Ice Spirit would get angry if she saw his curiosity. So he suppressed the fire of gossip burning in his heart and pretended to be invisible. After that, Lanlai felt his collar being lifted up. Then it was as if he was on a roller coaster, jolting up and down. It turned out that the Qilin clan leader was flying while holding onto his collar. But the speed was not something to be complimented. Could it not be so fast? Lanlai felt like he was about to throw up, but when he saw the Qilin clan leader's dark face, he did not dare to voice his thoughts. When they arrived at the Lung family's main residence, Lanlai was thrown down again. Then, Ice Soul disappeared with Bing Yao. Lanlai was standing alone at the entrance. He didn't expect to be left behind like this. He stood there for a long time in a daze. It was only when Uncle Long saw him and patted him on the shoulder that Lanlai suddenly came to his senses. "Little guy, why are you standing here like an idiot?" Uncle Long asked curiously. "Hello, Uncle Long." Lanlai greeted him with great enthusiasm. This was an important person in front of Shui, so he had to be very respectful. Then he explained to Uncle Long the reason why he was standing there in a daze. When he heard that Lanlai had been left here by Ice Spirit, Uncle Long patted his shoulder to comfort him. "Little fellow, you're not scared, are you?" It's all right," Lanlai replied carefully. He had a feeling that Uncle Long was looking at him strangely, as if he was full of sympathy. "You bastard. What was going on? Why did she sympathize with him?" "That's good." Hearing this, Uncle Long was relieved. With that, Uncle Long turned around and left, leaving Lanlai, who was confused. Lanlai was even more confused. He realized that the people around Shui were all so strange. Could this be the so-called, only those who are close to ink are black? Chapter 2792, Ice Spirit's Decision 2. Lanlai stood alone at the door, his mind running wild for a long time before he finally thought of leaving. At this moment, Bing Yao had already been brought back to Lung Ruoxu's residence by Ice Spirit. Even though he really wanted Bing Yao to live with him, now was clearly not a good time. Thus, after passing Bing Yao to Lung Ruoxu, Bing turned around and left with a heart full of jealousy. After Ice Spirit left, Bing Yao remained silent. Even though Lung Ruoxu wanted to ask what happened between the two of them, she could not bring herself to do so when she saw Bing Yao's current state. Fortunately, Bing Yao came clean not long after. When Lung Ruoxu heard this, she carefully probed, "Bing Yao, what are your plans?" "I don't know, little Shueshu. My heart is in a mess. I thought that guy would take the opportunity to ask me to acknowledge him, but he didn't." Bing Yao said, unhappily. "Are you very disappointed?" Lung Ruoxu asked with a smile. "Little Shueshu, what do you mean?" Bing Yao didn't quite understand Lung Ruoxu's words. "I mean, you thought Ice Spirit would use this opportunity to make you acknowledge him, but he didn't. Are you disappointed? Or rather, you're hoping that he would make such a request?" Seeing that Bing Yao did not understand, Lung Ruoxu could only be more direct. How was that possible?" Lung Ruoxu's words made Bing Yao's eyes widen in disbelief. Did it really think that way? "Bing Yao, there's nothing impossible about this. In fact, I think you want to acknowledge him, but you can't convince yourself. If he can seize the opportunity to make this request, you saying you will acknowledge him is enough to prove that you actually want to acknowledge him." Lung Ruoxu helped to analyze the situation. Then, she stroked the soft fur of the ice phoenix and continued, "Bing Yi, I can understand what you're thinking. It's only human nature. After all, he did feel guilty towards you back then. No one will blame you even if you don't acknowledge him. However, if you have the slightest desire to acknowledge him but are too embarrassed to say it, I think this is a good opportunity. You should think about it carefully." With that, Lung Ruoxu did not say another word. Instead, she silently accompanied Bing Yao by the side. Bing Yao also started to think seriously. It couldn't deny that it was indeed a little conflicted. He had been wavering between admitting it or not. He wanted to admit it, but he seemed to be a little unwilling. At the same time, she wanted to acknowledge this cheap father of hers. In the end, Bing Yao was so worried that she had a big head, little Shueshu, in going out for a while. Bing Yao said to Lung Ruoxue after a long while. With that, it did not wait for Lung Ruoxue's response and ran out. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she watched Bing Yao's back. Without a doubt, Bing Yao must have gone to find Bing Pe to dispel her doubts. It had to be said that Lung Ruoxue was right. The ice dragon was extremely depressed and conflicted by its own thoughts. After leaving Lung Ruoxue's place, it went straight to the ice spirit's residence. When it arrived, it saw the ice spirit looking up at the sky alone. Immediately, it felt a little uncomfortable. This was because this cheap daddy gave it a very desolate feeling and was somewhat out of place with the surrounding atmosphere, which made it feel very bad. At this moment, Ice Soul also noticed Bing Yao. She said in surprise, "Bing Yao, why are you here?" Thanks Ice Soul was surprised. Bing Yao rarely came to him. Every time she came to him, it was because she was being bullied. Could it be that someone was bullying Bing Yao? Ice Spirit's face turned gloomy at the thought of this. He must be tired of living to bully his son. Ice Spirit's imagination was powerful. When Bing Yao saw Ice Spirit's face suddenly turn black, she thought that Ice Spirit didn't welcome her. So, she immediately said arrogantly, "What? Can't I come?" Hearing Bing Yao's strange tone, Bing Pe was dumbfounded for a moment. He didn't mean it that way. "Bingy, I didn't say you couldn't come. Don't misunderstand." Ice Spirit immediately explained. "Did someone bully you?" Ice Spirit asked. "No one is bullying me. I just want to ask if you really want to use the condition I agreed to ask me to acknowledge you." Bing Yao asked directly. "Bing Yao, I've said it before. I won't raise such a condition. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in your heart. I also hope that you will be willing to call me Father, and not because of some damn promise." Ice Spirit questioned. He didn't expect that Bing Yao would be troubled by this question. For a moment, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, looking at Bing Yao's serious expression, he knew that Bing Yao was really troubled by this thought. Bing Yao, on the other hand, became silent again because of Bing Pe's words. Ice Spirit was worried. After an unknown period of time, Bing Yao finally spoke again. "Little Shueshu asked me if I wanted to acknowledge you." "Then what do you think?" Ice Spirit was so nervous that her heart was in her throat. "I don't know, maybe," Bing Yao said honestly. "Bing Yao, don't force yourself, really," Bing Pe said when he saw Bing Yao's uncertainty. However, he was still very happy to hear Bing Yao's words. At least, Bing Yao didn't dislike his existence. That was enough for him. "I'm not forcing you. I really want to acknowledge you as my father, but Bing Yao couldn't continue. This was also the reason why he was so conflicted. After all, although he said that he didn't hate this cheap father, he still felt a little strange subconsciously. So, he found that he couldn't say the words of acknowledging his father. Maybe it was just like what little Snowy said. It needed a reason or an excuse to acknowledge its father. In this way, it could deceive itself and say that it had to do this because of the promise. This thought made Bing Yao feel that he was being unreasonable. However, he couldn't control his thoughts, so he was more and more conflicted. I understand. Seeing Bing Yao's reaction, Bing Pe comforted her. Just as he said this, Bing Yao immediately threw herself into his arms and started crying. Bing Pe was dumbfounded. What was going on? However, the ice spirit still hugged the ice phoenix tightly and comforted it by patting its back. After a long time, Bing Yao finally stopped crying, but she choked. I've decided. I want to acknowledge you as my father." It didn't want to be pretentious anymore, because it suddenly realized that it was extremely reluctant to part with its cheap father's warm embrace. This feeling was completely different from the feeling that its master gave it, so it didn't want to waste any more time. It knew that it wanted a father. Chapter 2793, Ice Spirit's Decision, 3, but Ice Spirit was completely dumbfounded. He didn't hear wrong. Did Bing Yao say that she wanted to acknowledge him as her father? For a moment, Ice Spirit was confused and uncertain. After a long time, Ice Spirit asked carefully, "Bing Yao, what did you just say?" "I said I want to acknowledge you as my father. Damn it. What kind of reaction is that?" Bing Yao was already angry at the Ice Spirit's lack of reaction. But when he saw that the Ice Spirit didn't hear him clearly, he was even more furious. It had to know how much courage it had to muster to say those words, but this despicable cheap father wanted it to repeat them. It was really too infuriating. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to hear this so suddenly. I was overjoyed and didn't know what to do. Ice Spirit explained when he heard Bing Yao's displeasure. When Bing Yao heard this, he was quite satisfied. In fact, it was also very nervous. It looked at Ice Spirit shyly and said, "Father." "Bing Yao, you call me father again." Bing Yao's voice was soft, but Bing Po could still hear it clearly. However, he couldn't believe that this surprise came so suddenly, so he wasn't sure. When Bing Yao heard this request, he was instantly enraged. You weren't paying attention again? How much courage did it take for it to call him father? But now he had to. The furious Bing Yao was about to explode, but when she saw the anticipation in Bing Po's eyes, her heart softened and she obediently called out, "Father." With the experience from last time, Bing Yao called him father much more smoothly this time. This was the first time in tens of thousands of years that Bing Po had heard the word father. He was moved to tears. Ice Soul, who had dreamed of becoming a father, had finally gotten what she wanted today. His son, the son that he had lost for tens of thousands of years, had finally returned to his arms. Ice Spirit was so happy that words couldn't describe it. At the same time, the Ice Phoenix was also very excited as it was the first time it called someone dad. This feeling was very novel to it. So after calling someone dad twice, it continued to call them dad. The Ice Spirit was very happy to hear this. Bing Yao was also very happy. After taking this step, Bing Yao discovered that acknowledging this father wasn't as difficult as it had thought before. The more he called him father, the more smoothly he said it. The father and son hugged each other even more tightly. After the two of them were close enough, he finally remembered to tell Lung Ruoxue this good news. However, when they saw Lung Ruoxue, the depressed father and son suddenly realized that Lung Ruoxue had an expression of it's a matter of course on her face, as if their reunion was already within her expectations. "Little girl, can't you show some surprise and joy?" Ice Spirit couldn't help but ask. Exactly. "Little Shue, can you not look like you knew this would happen? You should know that we're the first ones to let you know about this. You have to cooperate, right?" Bing Yao also agreed. "All right, they'll cooperate." Lung Ruoxue nodded helplessly. Then, she put on a surprised and incredulous expression and said to the two of them, "This is really good news. Congratulations on your reunion as father and son." The moment Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she saw the father and son in front of her lower their heads at the same time. After looking at each other, they sighed at the same time. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. "Hey, aren't you guys going a little too far? You asked me to cooperate, but you're not satisfied with me. What are you trying to do?" Lung Ruoxue was furious. "Little Shue, we asked you to cooperate, but your cooperation is quite insincere. You don't even look happy. AI, little Shue, your acting skills need to be improved." Bing Yao said helplessly. "Yeah, I don't think it's sincere either." As for her son's words, Ice Soul, who had made up her mind to be a filial father, naturally supported him 100%. "All right, now, you're all on the same side, aren't you? You've even learned to anger me." Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Did he have to be so realistic? One had to know that Bing Yao had been acting coquettishly in her arms just now. He, Ice Soul, who was content with having a child, could only giggle foolishly after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. Bing Yao leaped into Lung Ruoxue's arms and tried her best to act coquettishly. She even coaxed, "Little Shue, don't be angry. We're just joking with you." "I know, not really angry. However, the reunion of you father and son is indeed a big event. I've decided to give you guys a good celebration." Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. "There's no need to celebrate, right? Just give me something good to eat." Bing Yao requested after hearing this. "Little gluttonous cat, you're acting as if I'm short of your food. This is a big event for your Qilin clan, so you must celebrate." Lung Ruoxue smiled helplessly. "Yes, Shue is right. We should celebrate and let all the people know that I have found the little prince of our Qilin race." Bing Po agreed with Lung Ruoxue's words. He wanted everyone to know that Bing Yao was his son, his only son. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue turned to look at Ice Spirit and asked, "How do you plan to introduce Bing Yao?" "Thanks, he's my son," Ice Spirit said in a daze. "I mean, how do you plan to tell the clan that the Ice Phoenix has a master?" Lung Ruoxue explained more clearly. "This, I haven't decided yet." Ice Spirit hesitated. Seeing her father like this, Bing Yao knew that the matter of her acknowledging a human as her master had put her in a difficult position. However, Bing Yao didn't regret her choice at all. Her feelings for her master couldn't change just because she had acknowledged a father. Thinking of this, Bing Yao said without a care, "I'll just tell them directly. I don't plan to return to the Qilin clan anyway." Bing Yao. Bing Po was sad. Didn't Bing Yao acknowledge him? Why did he say that? "Father, acknowledging you and returning to the Qilin clan are two completely different things in my eyes. I can acknowledge you, but I don't want to return to the Qilin clan. For so many years, I've gotten used to living a slow life. You want me to suddenly return to the Qilin clan to live with so many Qilin? I have no choice. In comparison, I'm much more comfortable with humans. After all, I've been living with humans since I was young, and I've already gotten used to their way of life. So I really don't want to go back. Please understand, father," Bing Yao explained. Bing Po was disappointed, but he agreed with Bing Yao, because he knew very well that he had made this decision not only because it was as it had said, but also because it didn't want his identity to make things difficult for him. Its father. AI. What a sensible child. He really let down. The more she thought about it, the more she felt guilty towards Bing Yao. At the same time, he made an important decision in his heart. After leaving Lung Ruoxue's place, Bing Po went to find Shui Mo. Shui Mo was very surprised to see Ice Spirit at this time. However, he could tell that Ice Spirit had something important to discuss with him, so he didn't tease his brother. Ice Spirit didn't beat around the bush and said to Shui Mo, "Bing Yao has accepted me." "Really? Then congratulations, big brother, for getting your wish." Shui Mo was very happy for Ice Soul. At the same time, he was glad that he didn't have to face Ice Soul with a sad face anymore. But Bing Yao's identity is a bit. Ice Spirit stopped halfway. He hadn't told any of his clansmen that the Ice Phoenix had a human master, so he didn't know how Shui Mo would react if he told him. This also caused him to stop halfway through his sentence. Shui Mo didn't know how to read minds, but he could tell that Bing Po was hiding something. He said, "What's so difficult about his identity? You also know that when the Ice Phoenix was stolen by the Fog Phoenix, it wasn't born yet. Later, the Fog Phoenix threw the Ice Phoenix to the lower realm, and it's unknown whether it's alive or dead." Ice Spirit stopped and looked at Shui Mo. Shui Mo knew that his brother had not finished his sentence, so he waited patiently for him to continue. Ice Spirit sighed and continued, "Originally, after being thrown away by Fog, it would be very difficult for the Ice Phoenix to survive. However, humans saved it, so the Ice Phoenix acknowledged that human as its master." "The Ice Phoenix has a master?" Shui Mo asked with uncertainty. "Yes, I am." Ice Spirit nodded. "What kind of person is he?" Shui Mo asked again. The little prince of the Qilin clan had a human master. This was a big deal, so he didn't know what to do at the moment. "I haven't seen him either. I heard that he's Shui Air's friend. He's currently in seclusion," Ice Spirit said honestly. "Then can you have the Ice Phoenix break the contract with its master?" Shui Mo continued to ask. "It's not possible. Bing Jie and its master have a very deep relationship. Besides, I can't do that. After all, Bing Jie has helped him. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to see Bing Jie," Ice Spirit said honestly. "Then, does Big Brother want me to tell my clansmen?" Shui Mo asked. "No," Ice Spirit denied. "Then what does Big Brother mean by that?" Shui Mo didn't understand. It was hard to guess what Big Brother was thinking. "I want to live with Ice Phoenix. I want to be with it," Ice Spirit said. "Big Brother, do you want to leave the Qilin clan?" Shui Mo asked in shock. "I'm not leaving. It's just that I won't be returning to the Qilin clan for now. I want to accompany Bing Jie. Of course, if something happens to the Qilin clan, it'll still be the first to return," Ice Spirit explained. I see. Shui Mo understood and said, Big brother, I know you feel guilty towards Bing Yao, and I will support any decision you make, but I'm afraid the elders won't agree. They will agree. It's not like I'm going to leave the Qilin clan. I'm just not going back for the time being. After all, they have managed the Qilin clan very well without me for so many years. So, even without me, they will still act as usual and will not disappoint me. Ice Spirit said confidently. Chapter 2794, Rejection 1. Facing Ice Spirit's optimism, Shui Mo's mind was not as simple as he thought. He knew how important the Ice Spirit was to the Qilin clan. Yes, when the Ice Spirit was still asleep, the Qilin clan was still thriving under the management of Huayu and the others. But that was because the Ice Spirit was their driving force. It was precisely because they held the thought of avenging their clan leader that the clansmen were unprecedentedly united. Now that their clan leader had awoken, the clansmen all thought that the important moment for the Qilin clan to regain its glory and reappear in front of the people of the divine world was coming. Who knew that their clan leader wanted to leave the Qilin clan? Even if it was only temporary, the clansmen would probably not be able to accept it in their hearts. He told Isol about Gu Fei, but Isol didn't care at all. Isol even said, "Didn't I say that? It's just that the Qilin clan is still the same as before, and it's still managed by Huiyu and the others. Of course, if Brother Mo wants to take over the Qilin clan, they'll welcome you. I can pass the position of clan leader to you now." Ice Spirit was very serious, but cold sweat appeared on Shui Mo's forehead. Was this the main point? Did he mean that? He was a little impressed by his big brother's powerful imagination. "Brother, I don't want the position of clan leader," Shui Mo said with a sigh. "I just want to remind you that the clansmen will not be happy about your departure. I know. I really want to give you the position of clan leader. I'm absolutely serious. You also know that I'll spend most of my time with Bing Yao, so I really don't want to take the position of the clan leader. The clan leader should be given to another capable Qilin. I want to step down. Plus, I don't think the people will mind my departure too much. After all, I'm not really going to leave the Qilin clan alone. If anything happens to the Qilin clan, they'll be the first to help. So, Brother Mo, please help your big brother." Ice Spirit begged with a slightly flattering smile. "Big brother, this isn't a matter of whether I agree or not. I've also said that you're too important to our clansmen. They've been waiting for you to wake up for tens of thousands of years. Now that you've finally woken up, no clansman will accept you leaving them behind." Shui Mo warned again. "I'm not leaving. I'm just stepping back and not living in the Qilin clan anymore. This won't affect the Qilin clan much." Ice Spirit also questioned. "Besides, you're not living in the Qilin race right now. Didn't the clan still let it go?" Ice Spirit added. Hearing this, Shui Mo became even more depressed and couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "Brother, how can our status be the same in the Qilin clan? You're much more important than me. Big brother, to tell you the truth, when I was staying at Lung Ruoxu's house, my clansmen kept urging me to return to the clan. In the end, they used the excuse of inviting Lung Ruoxue to the clan as a guest to trick me into returning too. They're all the same to me, let alone you, big brother. I can guarantee that once you leave the clan and live here, the treatment you receive will be even better than mine," Shui Mo said. Ice Spirit started to think after hearing what Shui Mo said. "Thanks, Brother Mo, if they really do that. You have to help me," Ice Spirit requested. "Big brother, I also want to see you and Bing Jie reunite. Don't worry, as long as I can help, I will definitely help. However, you really don't want me to help you convince the clan to accept the fact that Bing Jie has a master? I think our clansmen should be able to understand." Shui Mo asked. He still hoped that his big brother could stay in the clan. After all, his big brother was the backbone of everyone. "Brother Mo, I appreciate your kind intentions, but there's really no need to make things so difficult for the clansmen. Also, Bing Yao has been living outside for so many years, so I'm afraid it won't be able to adapt to the life in the clan. I don't want its life to change too much just because it has recognized me as its father. I've already let it down, so I don't want it to suffer any more grievances because of me. I hope Brother Mo can understand." Spirit said sincerely. Shui Mo understood. His big brother was just afraid that some clansmen would look down on Bing Yao in private. In fact, he knew that even the Ice Phoenix felt uncomfortable for a moment after having a human master. However, he immediately felt relieved. After all, the Ice Phoenix's situation was different. It was already good enough that it could keep its life in that situation back then. Why would it care so much? In addition, he believed that the majority of the Qilin clan would understand this. However, even in a united clan, there would still be a small group of clansmen who weren't that understanding. Thus, he knew that his big brother living outside with Bing Jie was definitely the best choice for Bing Jie. However, in the hearts of the Qilin clan's clansmen, this was a disaster. However, Shui Mo knew that his big brother had made up his mind when he saw Ice Soul's serious expression. He was only telling him in private in case he was unprepared. Big brother, since you've already decided, I will support you. So don't worry, if there are clansmen who don't understand, I will help you convince them. Shui Mo promised. Thank you, Brother Mo, but about the clan leader. Ice Soul wanted to give up the clan leader, but was interrupted by Shui Mo. Big brother, am not interested in being the clan leader. You know that I only like good food and formations. Now that I'm staying at this little girl's place, I already have good food and formations. I'm very satisfied with my current life. So, I really don't need to be the clan leader. Shui Mo quickly emphasized when he heard that his brother was still thinking about this. All right then. However, if none of us return to the clan, I'm afraid the Grand Elder and the others will go crazy. Ice Spirit said helplessly. Big brother, you can't force me to return to the clan just because you want to be free and unfettered outside. This is really disloyal. So on this point, we have to help each other. Anyway, it's just as you said, we're not abandoning the Qilin clan. We're just not living in the clan. Shui Mo formed an alliance. You're right. Ice Spirit nodded. He had said the same thing before. Just like that, Ice Soul and Shui Mo finished their discussion and decided to stay with Lung Ruoxue. As for the clan, it would still be managed by Fire Yu and the Great Elder. However, they had not decided when to tell Hui Yu and the Great Elder about this. At this moment, they were on the same side. 2 days later, the banquet Lung Ruoxue had mentioned to celebrate Ice Soul and his son's reunion was finally ready and officially started. After 2 days of meticulous preparation, Lung Ruoxue's side had racked their brains. This was also what she had requested. Who asked Bing Yao to be her friend and Bing Pe to be their ally? Chapter 2795, Rejection 2. The banquet mainly consisted of Bing Yi's favorite food. There were also some small programs that the beasties had prepared at the last minute. Of course, Lung Ruoxue didn't plan for the entire banquet to last for too long. Thus, the entire banquet would probably not last more than 3 hours. At first, when they heard that there was a celebration, Uncle Long and the others wanted to suggest drinking some wine. However, after the experience of getting drunk the last time, Lung Ruoxue was against everyone wanting to drink. Since she didn't agree, naturally, no one dared to make such a request. However, since it was a banquet, Lung Ruoxue would naturally not let everyone not touch a single drop of wine. However, there was a limit to the amount of wine. To these people who could drink a lot, that amount was clearly not enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. However, Lung Ruoxue had already shown them mercy. Hence, Uncle Long and the rest were helpless. After the banquet officially started, the delicacies that Lung Ruoxue ordered the servants to prepare were too much for the Qilin clan's eyes. Were the beautiful and exquisite things on the table really food? Looking at the food that had been meticulously prepared, none of the Qilins could bear to eat it. It was truly too beautiful, and they really wanted to keep it as a memento. However, the aroma of this beautiful food was particularly alluring, so some Qilins couldn't help but secretly take a piece of the side dish to taste. After tasting it, a certain Qilin was shocked. It's really too delicious. Sob, why did he feel a sense of satisfaction that he had never felt before? A certain Kirin, who was already so happy that he wanted to jump around after tasting the side dish, couldn't take it anymore and was the first to eat. Seeing him like this, The other Cheelants were originally looking down on his eating style. However, seeing that the food on the table was slowly decreasing, the Cheelants couldn't bear it anymore. Even though Lung Ruakshu's food was not bad, it was the first time they had such exquisite food. Once they started eating, these Cheelants couldn't control their mouths. Bing Pa, Shui, Mo, and the first elder of the Cheelan clan felt ashamed when they saw the Cheelan clan's disgraceful manner. However, you can't blame the Cheelan, right? Usually, the food prepared by Lung Ruashua was already so delicious that people were unwilling to leave. Now, these Cheelants were specially prepared and had not seen much of the world in terms of food. Naturally, they were easily tricked. This was also what Lung Ruashua was happy to see. As the saying goes, one's mouth is short when eating others. Since he had eaten her food, he had to treat Bing Yao better in the future. Lung Ruaksha's motive was very obvious. She had meticulously prepared these foods in order to bribe these Cheelan. After all, these were the elites of the Cheelan clan. They had the most authority in the clan. With them on Bing Jie's side, he believed that the Cheelan clan wouldn't dare to say anything about the fact that Bing Jie had a human master. It had to be said that as Bing Yao's friend, Lung Ruashua had thought of everything for him. This was what she had decided to do for him, even after Bing Yao had clearly expressed that she did not want to return to the clan. She had treated the food like cannonballs coated in sugar because she had accurately calculated the gluttonous nature of these Cheelan. As such, she had naturally hit them in one shot. Therefore, in the eyes of Ice Spirit and the other two, the Cheelant's embarrassing actions were exactly what she wanted. Lung Ruashua looked at the Cheelants who were stuffing themselves with food in satisfaction. She cleared her throat and said loudly, "You can eat, but don't rest your ears. Your chief has something to announce." After speaking, Lung Ruashua gave Ice Soul a look. When the Cheelan heard this, they all raised their heads in unison. However, they did not stop eating. Most of the Cheelants' mouths were full, and even their hands were full of food. They were afraid that if they were a step slower, the delicious food in front of them would be gone. Lung Ruashua was naturally satisfied with their reaction. Thanks as for Ice Spirit, he helplessly looked at his embarrassing clansmen and sighed. I'm sure you're all very curious about why there's a banquet today, right? Actually, this banquet is to celebrate my reunion with Bing Jie and his son. Bing Pa didn't beat around the bush and directly revealed his and Bing Chi's identity. The reason why he didn't mention this in advance was to give these Chi Lins a surprise. However, it seemed that his words had frightened these Cheelants too much, because as soon as he finished speaking, all the Cheelants, except the first elder, were stunned. They maintained their eating posture and froze. Ugh, what should he do? Ice Spirit had no idea. If he had known that he would scare these clansmen, he would have told the great elder to reveal his relationship with Bing Yi. Now it was all good. The Cheelan clansmen were all dumbfounded. What should he do next? He turned to Lung Ruashua for help, but who knew that Lung Ruashua would be so disloyal to him and give him a look that said, "Good luck to you." Instantly, Ice Soul became depressed. Then, he looked at the first elder of the Cheelan clan. Helplessly, the Cheelan Great Elder could only lightly cough a few times, wanting to use this to wake up the petrified clansmen. His words were indeed effective. The Cheelan clan members instantly came to their senses and looked at their clan leader in disbelief. After that, it was unknown who was the one who took the lead, but the Cheelan clan members suddenly burst out with a thunderous roar. Clan leader has found the little prince. That's great. They were celebrating. We must celebrate this big event. All the Cheelants were abnormally excited. This was absolutely great news to them. Seeing how excited they were, it was undeniable that their ice spirits were infected. He could feel that his clansmen were supportive of him, finding Bing Yao and acknowledging her. "Miss Long, give us some wine. How can we do this without wine?" At this moment, an overly excited and bold Cheelan requested of Lung Ruashua. Upon hearing this, Long Shu Zhang and the others couldn't help but shrink their necks to reduce their presence, because things like wine were absolutely taboo to Shui now. As expected, after listening to the Cheelan's words, Lung Ruashua smiled faintly and pointed to a wine jar on the table that was only the size of an adult's fist. "You want a drink?" Isn't there one on the table? How can this be enough? Looking at the small and exquisite wine jar, and then glancing at the even smaller wine cup in front of him, the Qilin became depressed. Not enough. Lung Ruoxua blinked her beautiful eyes as she asked. It's definitely not enough. The Qilin said very honestly. That's all I have. Lung Ruoxua said calmly. There was no way she could say it so naturally. A certain Kirin was obviously even more depressed. No more. How can you still say it so righteously? As the host, he should not prepared enough wine. With this thought in mind, a certain Qilin stood up from his seat with a face full of anger. His action immediately attracted everyone's attention. The great elder of the Qilin clan stared at the fool in front of him without blinking. He was ready to take him down as soon as this guy made a move. They could not allow him to get drunk and act like a maniac in Lung Ruoxua's territory. Otherwise, if that human girl were to fly into a rage, even the clan leader would not be able to save this foolish clan member. Chapter 2796 Rejection 3. With Huiyu as a warning, the great elder of the Qilin clan was afraid that his clansmen would start a conflict with Lung Ruoxua. Just when all the Qilin thought that this impulsive Qilin would make things difficult for Lung Ruoxua, a certain Qilin merely smiled and said, Since you don't have any more wine, they'll go buy some. Ugh. Upon hearing this, the Qilins were all speechless. Can you not be so useless? They had thought that there would be a big fight over alcohol. Who knew that the thunder was loud, but the rain was light? This is really disappointing. When he saw the Qilins' obviously disappointed expressions, a certain Qilin was extremely depressed. You bastard. Did he look like such an impulsive person? These bad guys who wish for the world to be in chaos. He would not let them succeed. This Qilin wasn't stupid. Of course, it knew that Lung Ruoxua couldn't be provoked. Hence, it had never thought of starting a conflict with Lung Ruoxua. It had stood up only to buy wine, but who knew that it would cause a misunderstanding? In reality, not only were the Qilin elites disappointed in him, even the Qilin Great Elder, who had intended to be the peacemaker, felt extremely displeased at the tactfulness of this clansman. This was not to say that he was looking forward to a conflict between his clansmen and Lung Ruoxua. It was just that after the Fire U incident caused them to be like Qilin with their tails between their legs in front of Lung Ruoxua, he still had a faint hope that a clansman who dared to go against Lung Ruoxua's evil forces would appear in the clan. Although this would bring trouble to the clan after the event, it had to be said that it would be very enjoyable. To put it bluntly, the sullen and contradictory Great Elder Qilin also had the characteristic of wishing for the world to be in chaos. Unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed this time. As for Lung Ruoxua, when she heard the words of a certain Qilin who was eager to drink in celebration, her smile became even more indifferent. She said, You want to buy wine? Sure, but you have to beat me first. With that, Lung Ruoxua stood up and even took on a battle stance. Fuck, was this for real? When a certain Kirin saw this, he was speechless and didn't know what to say. However, when he saw Lung Ruoxua's serious expression, he deeply felt that she was not joking. Of course, Lung Ruoxua was not joking. Uncle Long and the others also covered their faces when they saw this. They knew that alcohol was Shui Er's taboo, because Shui had said the same thing to them yesterday. And of course, they couldn't fight with Shui. If they forced this little girl into a corner and she revealed her life flame, they would all be helpless. Uncle Dragon looked at a certain Qilin with sympathy. He was looking forward to how the Qilin would respond. I don't fight with women. After a long silence, the depressed Qilin finally spoke. Beat me, and you can go buy wine. Lung Ruoxua reminded him with a smile. So what? If he won against a woman whose strength was below his, he would be laughed at by others. This was what humans said about winning without honor. This Qilin still had some moral integrity, but he had only treated Lung Ruoxua as an ordinary human woman. Therefore, he had never thought about whether he could defeat her or not. Furthermore, even though the wine was a great temptation to him, it was not enough for him to contribute his reputation. Hence, Lung Ruakshu's words caused him to feel conflicted and a faint sense of sorrow. I'm not fighting. I won't drink anymore, okay? A certain Kirin wanted to cry, but had no tears. Woo! What the hell is this? This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. Seeing that he had backed off, Lung Ruakshu's face was filled with disappointment. Then, she cautiously reminded him, "You're the one who didn't drink it. Don't regret it." "I won't regret it," a certain Kirin said in a low voice. Then he sat down quietly. At this moment, Lung Ruakshu's beautiful eyes turned to the other Chilins. She smiled and said, "Anyone else who wants to drink, go ahead and buy. But the condition is that you have to beat me." After she said that, her beautiful eyes swept across the Chilin's body, causing them to lower their heads immediately, afraid that Lung Ruashua would target them. As the elites of their race, they were naturally not as impulsive as normal Chilins and could not control their own actions. In addition, they had heard some news about Lung Ruashua from Bingyun, so no one was willing to have any conflict with Lung Ruashua. For a moment, the banquet hall fell silent. Thanks, all the Chilins were eating in silence, and none of them dared to speak. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, a cry of disbelief was heard. "What did you say, Chief?" The one who spoke was the Chilin First Elder. His voice immediately broke the silence in the room and attracted all the Chilin's attention. They all raised their heads and looked in their direction. Lung Ruashua was also curious about what Ice Soul had said to the Chilin Grand Elder. Why did the old man look like he was in pain from being abandoned? For a moment, everyone's attention was drawn to the Ice Spirit. As for Ice Spirit, she was so depressed that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. He was so regretful. Why did he choose this time to reveal his thoughts of stepping down to the second line to the Great Elder? Originally, the two of them had a good chat in private. They didn't know why he suddenly revealed his future plans. The Great Elder was shocked, and the corresponding consequence was that today's matter was probably going to be exposed in advance. AI. He really didn't want to let his clansmen know of his thoughts when everyone was so happy. He didn't know if his clansmen could bear it. However, he probably couldn't care about whether his clansmen could bear it or not, because the first elder of the Chilin clan had already died in battle when he heard this terrible news. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. Then, the Chilin elder kneeled on the ground and cried. He hugged Ice Spirit's leg and cried, "Clan leader, you can't do this. How could you abandon us?" Upon hearing this, all the Chilins panicked, and their expressions changed drastically. The clan leader was going to abandon them? What was the meaning of this? Did the clan leader not want them anymore? How could this be? One had to know that the tribe leader was the backbone of the Chilin clan. If the tribe leader abandoned the Chilin clan and left, what would they do? For many years, the great clan leader had always been their spiritual sustenance. Therefore, they could lose their lives, but they absolutely could not lose their clan leader. At the thought of this, all the Chilins knelt on the ground and started bawling, "Clan leader, you can't abandon us. We can't live without you." Lung Ruashua looked at the chaotic scene before her and turned to look at Bingpa in surprise. So Bingpa and the first elder of the Chilin clan were talking about leaving the Chilin clan? Was it for Bing Yao? Quiet down. Listen to your chief. Thinking of this possibility, Lung Ruashua took the initiative to comfort the Chilins that were losing control. After giving Lung Ruashua a grateful look, Ice Soul's gaze shifted to the rest of the clan. She said loudly, "You've misunderstood. I'm not abandoning you." Upon hearing this, the Chilins immediately held back their tears and listened attentively to the clan leader's words. When Lung Ruashua saw the Chilins' ability to control their tears, she prostrated herself on the ground in admiration of them. This was also work. As a result, she had no choice but to treat these Chilin token eyes who were flexible. He wondered how long they had been practicing this move. How could it be so natural? Lung Ruashua mumbled to herself out of curiosity. At this moment, Bing Po began to explain. "Listen to me. I'm not going to abandon you. I just want to step back and give the position of the clan leader to a young man. In the future, I want to ask about the trifles of the Chilin clan. After all, I'm a member of the Chilin clan. I want you to stand by and watch the Cheelin clan fall into a difficult situation, so you can all be at ease. How can I possibly abandon you all? Ice Spirit explained patiently, but the Cheelin's disciples were too shocked to say anything. They couldn't understand why the clan leader would have such an idea. Chief, do you want the young prince to succeed the throne? After hearing this, Huiyu couldn't help but ask. Because he was a little far from the great elder and the clan leader, he didn't hear what the two of them had said. Bing Jie won't inherit the chief position. My chosen successor is you. In fact, I should have officially passed the position of the clan chief to you tens of thousands of years ago, but you were still too young at that time, so I didn't feel at ease. However, after training for so many years, you've managed the Cheelin clan very well, so I can be truly at ease now that I'm handing the clan over to you. I hope that our Cheelin clan will be able to reach a higher level under the leadership of you and the Great Elder. Are you confident? Ice Spirit explained clearly, as he was afraid that the Fire You would misunderstand. However, the Fire You could not be happy after hearing Ice Soul's words. He wasn't afraid of someone snatching his position. In his heart, he had always thought that the Cheelin clan belonged to the clan leader and that only the clan leader had the right to lead the Cheelin clan. Now that the clan leader had cast his hand away, he had thought that it was for the little prince. Who knew that the clan leader actually wanted to pass the position of the clan leader to him? Could he refuse? Patriarch, I don't want to be the patriarch. In the hearts of all of us Cheelin, you're the only patriarch of the Cheelin clan. Of course, if you want the young prince to inherit your position, we have no objections. But I really can't. Huiyu refused with a sincere face. Chapter 2797. Whoever's crying, feed it to the wolves. 1. These were also his heartfelt words. Huiyu had been worshipping the chief since he was a child. He even idolized Ice Spirit. Therefore, he had always thought that he, as the acting chief, had to manage the Cheelin clan well for the chief. When the chief woke up, he would return the Cheelin clan to the chief. This idea had been his biggest motivation for many years, and he had indeed done that. However, he did not expect that the current chief would not want to manage the Cheelin clan anymore. What should he do? If the patriarch wanted the little prince to succeed the throne, he could accept it out of love for the house. But now it was obvious that the patriarch wanted to officially pass the position to him. No, he didn't want to. At that moment, Fire Use was unusually firm. Isoul did not expect Fire You to say that. Hence, he was in a dilemma. I've already made up my mind. In the end, Ice Spirit could only say helplessly, Clan leader, why is this so? First Elder Cheelin asked with a pained expression. First Elder, Huiyu, and you guys, can you not be so stubborn? It's not like I'm going to leave the Cheelin clan completely. I just want to spend more time with Bing Chan, so I don't plan to manage the Cheelin clan's affairs anymore. Can't you all understand? Ice Spirit asked, pretending to be angry as she glanced at the Cheelins. Clan leader, of course we understand you, and we're also happy that you've reunited with the little prince and his son, but this doesn't affect you from continuing to be our clan leader. There won't be any conflicts. The first elder of the Cheelin clan couldn't help but remind him. Yeah, clan leader, there's no conflict. The other Cheelins agreed. Yeah, I'll tell you everything else later. Everyone eat first. Don't let down this little girl's good intentions. Seeing her clansmen like this, Ice Spirit could only put this matter aside for now. Otherwise, today's celebration banquet would probably become a meeting among their clansmen. Upon hearing the clan leader's words, the Cheelin clan's members fell silent for a moment. They couldn't help but think to themselves, could there be something else going on here? Why is it so complicated? However, since the clan leader had spoken, they were also afraid that Lung Ruoxue would feel that they had let her down. Hence, all of them remained silent and obediently ate their food. However, after knowing that the clan leader wanted to step down, no matter how delicious the food in front of them was, they felt like they were chewing on wax. They could not taste anything. Lung Ruoxue was at a loss for words when she saw how painfully they were eating. She could only cancel the small program that she had arranged earlier and end the celebration party hastily. After that, Lung Ruoxue took the initiative to arrange a meeting room for them. If there was anything, they could settle it there. All the Cheelants were quite satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's understanding. After giving her a grateful look, all the Cheelants could not wait to enter the meeting room. Watching the backs of the Cheelants, Uncle Long couldn't help but tease. Do you think the Cheelants will kill themselves if they know that Senior Ice Soul wants to retreat? One had to know that this matter was rather unexpected and shocking to them, let alone to the Cheelants who were involved. He also knew what Ice Spirit meant to the Cheelan race, so it wasn't difficult to guess what kind of blow Ice Spirit's abdication would cause to the Cheelan race. And the facts had also proven that the impact on the Cheelants were indeed not small. So much so that during the second half of the banquet, the Cheelants who were originally quite interested in the delicious food all couldn't swallow anymore. However, everyone looked at Uncle Long with a strange expression as soon as he asked this question. It was as if they were very confused by his eagerness to try. After all, he dared to talk about the Cheelan clan's affairs so openly. Was he trying to draw hatred? Thanks who knew that Lung Ruoxue would answer Uncle Long's question with a straight face? It's not impossible. First, he would cry. Second, he would throw a tantrum. Third, he would hang himself. I think he will appear today. Lung Ruoxue's extremely serious tone made it clear to everyone that she was not joking. Instantly, everyone fell silent. Would it really be like this? Everyone was curious and stood outside the meeting room, hoping to get the latest information as soon as possible. As for their gossip, not only did Lung Ruoxue support them, she even planned to lead them to eavesdrop on them. After knowing Lung Ruoxue's plan, Uncle Long and the rest trembled. Was this really a good idea? Swear, isn't this a little bad? Dongfang Yu asked uneasily. He had never done such a thing in his life. Although this did not mean that he was afraid of Ice Spirit, eavesdropping was not something he should do openly, and it was not in line with his usual behavior. What? Don't you want to know the result? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked calmly. The result. Of course they wanted to know, but this eavesdropping corner was not good. Dongfang Yu and the others were in a dilemma. Looking at their expressions, Lung Ruoxue knew what these guys were struggling with. It was nothing more than a very strong curiosity, but due to morality, she did not want to do such a thing. Usually, Lung Ruoxue would only describe such a person with one word: hypocritical. But now, hypocrite. If you want to hear it, then go listen. What's the big deal? A voice suddenly rang out. He then said what Lung Ruoxue wanted to say, but did not. Of course, only Azure would dare to say such a thing. When she saw Uncle Long and the rest depressed expressions, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh in her heart. It seemed that Song had to come forward. Azure's words were really powerful. Lung Ruoxue happily picked up Song and touched the soft fur on its body as a reward. However, Song, who used to like being touched by Lung Ruoxue, seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied with her. It said angrily, "Girl, you were quite hypocritical just now. You clearly wanted to say the same thing about them as I did. So why did you give them face? You could just say it directly." Ugh, they were not outsiders, but Uncle Long and the others. One of them was her godfather. How could she directly say that they were hypocritical? In that case, wouldn't Godfather and Uncle Long be depressed to death? Lung Ruoxue had always treated them as her elders. Naturally, she would not do this. Unfortunately, Song, who had always done whatever he wanted, had no way to understand the complex emotions of humans. Everyone was depressed for a while, but in the end, they couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't that they liked to be scolded, but they felt that so many of them, including Shui had been mercilessly scolded by Song. This experience was definitely extraordinary. After laughing at each other, everyone quickly calmed down and went to eavesdrop on Isol's conversation, as Song said. Just as Azure had said, why be so hypocritical? If you want to hear it, then listen. In any case, even if the Cheelan clan found out, they wouldn't dare to truly fall out with them. After that, everyone felt even more at ease. Soon, there were cries in the conference room. At first, there was only one cry, but slowly, there were more and more cries. Some were wailing, and some were sobbing. Chapter 2798. Who's crying? Feed it to the wolves. 2. When Uncle Long and the others heard this, they looked at each other again. They were all confused. Why was she crying? Meanwhile, in the room, Ice Spirit was having a headache as she faced the crying Cheelin. He had said everything he needed to say, including the fact that the Ice Phoenix had a human master, but who knew that after these clansmen heard it, they didn't give any advice and instead directly cried. What was the meaning of this? Why don't you guys just give me a straightforward answer? Crying can solve the problem? Gradually, Ice Spirit became impatient with the crying. In the past, he hated it when people cried, and now this crying made him even more upset. Stop crying. Do you think it's nice for a man to cry like a woman? Ice Spirit roared. His voice was so loud that all the Cheelins were stunned. They couldn't help but stare at their clan leader with wide eyes. Sobs. Is the clan leader angry? When the Cheelin clan heard this, they wanted to cry again. However, when they saw that their clan leader seemed to be a little angry, they didn't dare to cry out loud. They could only cry silently and occasionally choke up. Seeing them like this, Ice Spirit was even more furious. At this time, a familiar voice of dissatisfaction came into the meeting room. Who said all women should cry? Are you discriminating against women? The one who spoke was naturally Lung Ruashua. Then, she pushed open the door of the meeting room and walked in. Behind her were Uncle Long and the others, who looked embarrassed. It was already wrong of them to eavesdrop on others. Now that they came in so brazenly, wasn't it obvious that they were trying to tell others that they were eavesdropping? But Shwe had already come in. If they continued to pretend that they didn't know anything, they would all look down on themselves. They lowered their heads and looked for a place to sit down. Uncle Long and the others didn't dare to look at the Cheelin's expressions. In fact, they wished that these Cheelin didn't show their existence, but that was obviously impossible. None of the Cheelins had expected that an outsider would suddenly barge in when they were in the middle of a discussion. Although this outsider had provided them with a place to stay, it was clearly not the conduct of a person with moral integrity to enter someone else's meeting without permission. With this thought in mind, the Cheelin started to look down on Lung Ruashua and the others. However, facing Lung Ruashua, the Cheelins were helpless. Even if they looked down on her, they didn't dare to say it out loud in front of her. After all, this was her territory, silently swallowing down the dissatisfaction in their hearts. The Cheelins had no choice but to accept the other party's existence. They really did as Uncle Long and the others wished, directly treating them as invisible people. As for the culprit, Ice Spirit, who had caused Lung Ruashua to barge in, he was currently in a state of deep depression and conflict. Looking at Lung Ruashua, who did not realize that her actions were inappropriate, Ice Soul felt even more helpless. One had to know that in all his years of living, this was the first time he had seen someone so self-righteously eavesdropping on someone else's wall, even interrupting and barging in. This was too. Thanks anyway. Ice Spirit didn't know what to say. More importantly, the little girl seemed to be dissatisfied with him. He could not understand why. In reality, Lung Ruashua was like this because she felt that Ice Spirit was taking too long to resolve this matter. She couldn't bear it anymore. Even though this was the Cheelin clan's matter and she shouldn't interfere, this was her territory. More importantly, she was already on the verge of going crazy from the Cheelin's cries. Originally, when she heard the Cheelin's cries, she simply returned to her own residence, thinking that out of sight, out of mind. Who knew that the crying spread too wide? Even if she hid in her room, she couldn't stop the crying from reaching her ears. In the end, in a fit of anger, she came back to the conference room in a rage. When she was outside, she heard what Ice Spirit said, so she responded and decided to join their meeting. Who cares if they agree or not? Quickly settling this matter is the way to go. If you want to waste time, go back to your Cheelin race. After sitting down, Lung Ruakshu's beautiful eyes first swept over the silent and sobbing Cheelin, then looked at Ice Soul. Finally, she said, "Whoever is crying, I'll throw him out to feed the wolves." To feed the wolves? Lung Ruakshu's threat made the Cheelin clan speechless. What wolf in this world would dare to eat them? The Cheelins were a little curious. Moreover, they weren't the only ones who were speechless. Even Uncle Long and the others felt that Shwe had been driven mad by these indecisive Chilean beasts. Otherwise, why would she say such shocking words? Would any Chilean be afraid of such a threat? As expected, after hearing Lung Ruakshu's threat, one of the Chilean with a fiery temper did not mock her like the other Chilean. Instead, it pointed at Lung Ruashue and raged. "You want to feed us to the wolves? Why don't you come? I'd like to see what kind of wolf would dare to eat me." One could not blame this Chilean for being so confident. It was simply because the Chilean race had a transcendent status among the beast races in the divine realm. Even if they were sent to the mouth of a wolf, it was likely that the wolf would not dare to eat them. After listening to this Chilean's words, Lung Ruashu sighed helplessly and placed Song on the ground. In the next moment, everyone heard a wolf's howl. Then, they watched as the snow-white kitten on the ground transformed into a mighty and majestic white wolf, standing in front of everyone with an awe-inspiring aura. Those deep and cold wolf eyes made everyone present tremble with fear. This was the wolf that Lung Ruashua wanted to feed them to? Isn't this a cat? Instantly, the Chileans were all speechless and didn't know what to say. Can you not play like this? It was clearly a cat. Even if it had turned into a wolf, it was not a real wolf. It was even more impossible for him to eat them. For a moment, the Chileans didn't know how to react. This included the fiery Chilean that was quarreling with Lung Ruashue. At this moment, everyone was in a daze. The mouths of Uncle Long and the others twitched. This wolf was Azure. No wonder he dared to eat the Kirin. In the entire God world, only Tsang would have such courage. When everyone thought of this, they looked at Lung Ruashue with a thoughtful gaze. That last Shue was really getting worse and worse. She actually turned Song Huan into a wolf. Hee. Great. The Chileans were all dumbfounded, right? The Chileans were dumbfounded, while Azure, who had scared them, was a little depressed. It didn't think that Nyo would actually give it such a task, and even make it turn into a wolf. In fact, even if it didn't turn into a wolf, it could still eat the Chilean if it wanted to. With a slightly malicious thought, Song's gaze swept across the Chilean's body a few times, and finally locked onto the bird that stood out. In an instant, Song's claw swiped towards the Chilean that was trying to bully Lung Ruashue. The unlucky Chilean didn't even have the time to resist before it was smacked to the ground by Song's huge claw. At this moment, the Chilean was in human form. After being slapped down, it fell to the ground in an extremely indecent posture. Then Song sat it on its butt. The unlucky Chilean only struggled a few times before it fainted. Chapter 2799. Whoever's crying, feed it to the wolves. 3. He didn't know if it was because Song had used too much strength or because he was too angry, but in short, his tragic experience made Uncle Long and the others feel sympathy. Following that, all the Chileans looked at the scene in front of them in horror. How could this be? Was the wolf that the kitten had turned into so powerful? The Chileans were all puzzled. Regarding Blue's identity, other than the Chilean clan leader, almost no one knew. Hence, when faced with Blue's power, the Chilean clan members who had never placed Blue in their eyes and even treated it as Lung Ruakshu's little pet were all petrified. Azure's formidable strength had dealt a huge blow to their strong and confident hearts as Chileaness, causing them to become uncertain. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Ice Spirit sighed and pleaded, "Senior Tsang, I hope you could be magnanimous and let my clansmen go." "Let him go? Oomph. Those who bully my girl will all die," Azure said with an undeniable expression. Not only was Ice Spirit speechless, even Lung Ruakshu's face turned red. However, Song was trying to protect her, so Lung Ruakshu naturally wouldn't step out to clarify that the Chilean didn't bully her. Since Azure had decided that unlucky Chilean had been bullied, Lung Ruakshu thought to herself as she enjoyed Song's protection. She even ignored the gaze that Ice Soul threw at her, asking her to speak up for her. When Ice Spirit saw that Lung Ruakshu was ignoring him, he was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. "Senior Tsang, Ice Spirit opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Based on his understanding of Song, Song was not an easy person to get along with. Now, it was clear that Song would not give him any face. Therefore, he did not know what to do. This time, after finally confirming that their chief had called the Wolf Senior, the Cheelants were even more frightened. Oh my God, the clan leader actually called him Senior? This was truly unbelievable. One had to know that their clan head's seniority in the divine realm was not low, and to be able to be called Senior by him, what level of old goo did they have to know? Immediately, Azure's identity became the focus of all the Cheelant speculations. However, no matter how they racked their brains, they couldn't figure out who Azure was. But against the powerful Azure, the Cheelants were all on high alert. With the previous example, they didn't dare to take the initiative to provoke this wolf. They already believed that this wolf could definitely devour them. Seeing the Kirin become obedient, Azure was very satisfied. Then, it turned to Lung Ruashue and asked, "Girl, what should we do with this Cheelant? Do you need me to swallow it?" When Tsong said this, he deliberately made an eager expression, which made all the Cheelants depressed. However, they didn't dare to say anything and could only timidly lower their heads, trying to reduce their presence. I think you can wake him up and see what his attitude is before making a decision. After hearing Tsong's words, Lung Ruashue said with a smile. Her words made Ice Spirit, who had been on tenterhooks, heave a sigh of relief. He was so afraid that Lung Ruashue would say, "You can swallow it," in a fit of anger. However, after heaving a sigh of relief, he was conflicted again. Because the truth was clear, Tsong listened to Lung Ruashue, and Lung Ruashue ignored his pleading gaze, which made him very worried. That little girl was not on good terms with him. With this thought in mind, Bing Pio's resentful gaze followed Lung Ruashue. However, Lung Ruashue did not even spare him a glance. At this time, the unlucky Cheelant was also awakened by Tsong, who was very obedient to Lung Ruashue. Azure's actions weren't gentle at all, but rather rough. This was because the Cheelant was awakened by Azure's slaps. After waking up, the unlucky Cheelant was momentarily dazed. However, he immediately felt the weight on his body, which made him extremely uncomfortable. He moved a little, but his body weight was still as steady as Mount High. At this moment, the unlucky Cheelant raised its head and struggled to look at the heavy object on its body. You get up," the unlucky Cheelant said weakly. He felt pain all over his body, which made him very uncomfortable. "Oomph. If I get up just because you want me to, how embarrassing would that be?" Hearing this, Song said coldly, "Woo, then what do you want?" The unlucky Kirin, who couldn't break free, asked with tears in his eyes, "Didn't you want to see what kind of wolves would dare to eat you? How about I let you take a look?" Azure said indifferently, deliberately opening his mouth. An unlucky Kirin saw this and shivered before continuing to sob. "No, don't. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said such things. Can you be magnanimous and forgive me?" He was really scared. The wolf sitting on him was obviously stronger than him. He couldn't handle it. More importantly, he wasn't stupid. Seeing that his clansmen didn't plead on his behalf, he knew that no one could do anything about this wolf. Since that was the case, it would be fine if he gave in. "Thanks, Senior Tsong. He already knows his mistake. Please forgive him." Ice Spirit said. "Wu clan leader, help." The unlucky Cheelant screamed silently in his heart. He couldn't help but think to himself, the clan leader is still the best. A child with a patriarch was a treasure. However, why did the chief call this wolf Senior? He was unconscious before, so he didn't know that Ice Spirit had already pleaded for him. The other Cheelants didn't say anything because they couldn't do anything. After all, the clan leader called them seniors, so they didn't have the right to speak. More importantly, even if they did plead for mercy, they were afraid that the other party would directly ignore them, who asked them to not have such a heavy weight. The word weight was extremely important no matter when and where. They didn't have that kind of status, so they naturally didn't have the right to speak with the high and big shots. "It's not impossible for me to forgive him, but let him make his stance clear first," Song said directly. Hearing Jean's statement, the unlucky Cheelin was stunned. He thought to himself, didn't he already state that he was wrong? Why did he still have to make a stand? Seeing the question marks on the unlucky Kieran's face, Azure explained, I'm asking you to state whether you agree to let your family head step down. You bastard. These people would take too much time to do things. So Azure decided to use a quick plan. Of course, this was also the reason why Lung Ruashua had IT Act. Ugh. The unlucky Kieran didn't expect that Azure wanted him to say this and immediately felt conflicted. This matter, was it important whether he agreed or not? Hurry up and tell me. If I'm satisfied, I'll let you go. Seeing that the Kieran didn't speak for a long time, Blue impatiently urged, let it go only after it's satisfied? Then what kind of answer would satisfy it? Thinking of this, the unlucky Cheelin was even more conflicted. At this moment, he really didn't know if he should agree or not. So he could only probe that, I want to know, is my stance very important? It's not important. Song said coldly and then added, but you have to say it. What's the difference between this and not saying? The unlucky Cheelin silently cursed, then made up his mind and said, I agree to the clan leader's retreat. The clan leader has worked hard for the clan for many years. It's time for you to rest. After thinking for a long time, the unlucky Cheelin felt that this should be what the threatening senior wolf wanted to hear the most. After all, they had been discussing this matter before, and they were all against it at that time. It was only after that Lung Ruashua barged in, and he became the first unlucky person to bear the brunt of it. Sure enough, after he finished speaking, Azure patted the unlucky Cheelin's head with its huge claws in satisfaction and said, since you're so considerate of your clan leader, I won't make things difficult for you anymore. You can get up now. After saying that, Azure stood up from a certain unlucky Kieran. After being pardoned, the unlucky Cheelin was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes, and he even showed an expression of I knew it. However, his expression of having guessed Song's thoughts caused almost all the Cheelin present to glare at him. Traitor! The traitor of the Cheelin race. The angry Cheelin didn't have a good expression towards the unlucky Cheelin who betrayed them. Just think about it. They were still very sympathetic towards him, but now, each of them wanted to rush forward and bite him ruthlessly. The unlucky Cheelin also felt the countless angry gazes on his body, which made him involuntarily shrink back behind Azure. Whoa, he didn't want to do this either. He was forced to do so, but now, it was clear that no one would understand his difficulties. However, Azure was quite interested in the Cheelin's interaction and said with a smirk, what? You don't agree with his idea? Oh. Whoever disapproves can stand out now, or you won't have the chance later. What did that mean? All the Cheelins were puzzled. Now it's your turn to declare your position. Fuck, what did it have to do with them? They didn't even argue with Lung Ruashua. For a moment, Song's words aroused the anger of the crowd. However, due to Song's unknown identity as a senior, the Cheelins were very smart and didn't reveal it immediately. However, their eyes were so angry that they were spitting fire, revealing the thoughts in their hearts. Song didn't care and continued, those who agree to let your family patriarch step down, stand behind me. Those who don't, they'll beat you up until you agree. So, don't hesitate, just say it. After saying that, Azure rubbed his fists and made his battle preparations. At this moment, a certain unlucky Cheelin suddenly felt balanced in his heart and didn't feel that he was very unlucky. His clansmen, on the other hand, were deeply depressed. This was a blatant threat. Did he want to use violence to force them to agree? At this moment, even Soul felt that Song's method was simple and crude, but it was also the most effective and direct method. Chapter 2800. The Woman Who Orders People Around. 1. All of a sudden, Ice Spirit was looking forward to it. Of course, he would never use such a method to force the Cheelin. However, he couldn't stop Azure's thoughts. Besides, Song was trying to help him. Ice Spirit thought it was better for him to keep quiet. He knew that if Song wanted to help him, he wouldn't really hurt the Cheelin. At most, he would just cause them some physical pain. It was nothing to the Cheelin's tough skin. He would just treat it as a way to train their will. With that thought in mind, Ice Soul shamelessly and calmly sat on the sidelines. Don't blame him for not doing anything. He could only use this method to force the stubborn Cheelans to agree. Therefore, from a certain perspective, he was very grateful and helped them. More importantly, Ice Spirit knew that he only helped because of Shui. Otherwise, he wouldn't know who he was. As such, he was even more grateful to Tsang. The intelligent Ice Spirit appreciated Azure's kindness, but the Cheelans that had suddenly turned from a spectator into the main character were not so comfortable in their hearts. How detestable! It was really too detestable. They had clearly not done anything, nor had they made any noise at Lung Ruoxue. So what right did they have to suddenly point the cannons at them? They were innocent, okay? Moreover, whether the Cheelan clan agreed to the Patriarch's retreat to the second line was an internal matter of the Cheelan clan. How could a cat that could turn into a wolf have the right to point fingers? So what if he can turn into a wolf? They felt extremely indignant, especially when they saw Tsang's expression that was waiting to beat them up. They felt deeply depressed. However, the Cheelans were smart enough not to argue with each other. Instead, they all looked at Huiyu and the Cheelan Great Elder expectantly. These two could be said to be the absolute main force against the clan leader's retreat to the second line. It was better for them to step forward than for a small Cheelan like him to step up. As the Cheelan thought of this, their eyes became more and more fiery. On the other hand, Huiyu and the first elder of the Cheelan clan were deeply depressed. The two of them had lived for so long, but they were not stupid. For the clan leader to address him as senior, he was definitely an old and ancient figure who had not appeared in the world. He was not someone that they, the small-limbed Cheelan, could contend with. Now, he had the attitude of wanting to interfere in the Cheelan's family matters, and he didn't want it to meddle in other people's business. This was purely to attract hatred, not to mention that their words were useless to the other party. Even the clan leader's words would not work. Moreover, looking at the clan leader's silent appearance, it was obvious that he would not interfere. This made the two old Cheelans even more conflicted. Clan leader, how can you just stand by and do nothing? The two of them were speechless and extremely worried. After a moment of thought, the two of them pulled their thoughts back to Tsang. It was impossible to not let them manage. They would manage it by force. But if they agreed to let them interfere with the internal affairs of the Cheelan clan, they would feel very unbalanced in their hearts. For a moment, the two Cheelan's hearts were in a mess. No matter how they thought about it, the two of them didn't feel good. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, who could see through their internal conflict, smiled and said, "Everyone, the Cheelan clan's patriarch's retreat has nothing to do with me, so I shouldn't have asked about it. However, you've made too many complicated decisions. You've even threatened me with crying, making a scene, and hanging yourself. I can't just not ask about this. I don't want any lives to be lost here. So, I hope you can understand my feelings. Thanks, understand your head. They wouldn't really seek death." After listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, the Cheelan silently cursed. Lung Ruoxue naturally did not care about how they felt. After a pause, she continued, "As the master of Demon City, how can I watch as a beastie seeks death in my home? Of course, if you don't want me to interfere, then please leave and return to your own territory. My hands definitely won't stretch that far, so please rest assured. Besides, it's normal for the old to replace the new in any family or organization. Why is it that only your Cheelan clan is so conflicted when you encounter such a thing? Do you want to rely on Senior Ice Soul's protection forever and not make any progress? I don't think so. When Senior Ice Soul was unconscious for tens of thousands of years, the Cheelan clan didn't collapse without him. On the contrary, the Cheelan race was unusually united. So now, Senior Ice Soul still wants to continue the normal operations of the Cheelan clan while he was unconscious. Why are you all so desperate as if you're about to be abandoned? Isn't this too pretentious? You have to know that the world will still spin without anyone, even the Cheelan race. The Cheelan clan didn't have Senior Ice Soul as the clan leader, but there would be another outstanding clan leader. Isn't this a good opportunity for you all to show off your abilities? Besides, it's not like Senior Eye Soul doesn't care about the Cheelin clan at all. He also said that if something happens to the Cheelin clan, he will still support you. Isn't that enough? Lung Ruashua went on, not caring about how ugly the Cheelin's expression was. After she was done, she turned her beautiful eyes to Huiyu, who was on the verge of tears. Fire you. Although you're sometimes stupid, I don't think you'll grow up to be like Senior Eye Soul, the great Cheelin clan leader that everyone in the divinity respects. However, this has nothing to do with me. I don't care if you want to be the clan leader or not. But in my family, you only have two choices. You can either reject or accept. Lung Ruaksha's attitude was unyielding. I won't accept it. Huiyu's face turned red with anger when he heard this. Very good. I like your straightforward attitude. Lung Ruashua complimented it, then turned to look at Azure and said, Song, the Fire You has already expressed its attitude. Now it's your turn. No problem. Song smiled as he walked closer to the Fire You. W, what do you want to do? Huiyu looked at the huge, snow-white wolf that was slowly approaching. His body, which was trembling nonstop due to Lung Ruaksha's anger, shook even more violently. This was really going too far. Huiyu was extremely indignant. He was so angry that he didn't know how to react. When Song heard Huiyu's words, his smile became even more evil. I just want to beat you up until you accept it. Even if you beat me to death, I won't accept it. Huiyu suddenly said firmly. Oh, really? I hope you have a backbone as you think. Azure said with anticipation. Then he took out a handful of colorful pills and used his claws to pry open Huiyu's mouth, throwing the pills and his claws in. The elixir melted in his mouth, and Huiyu didn't even have time to spit it out. The liquid elixir flowed down his throat and into his stomach. Coughing violently, Huiyu glared at Song and said, Damn it, what did you make me eat? Chapter 2801. The Woman Who Orders People Around, too. Pills. Don't tell me you don't know him. Song laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately grabbed Huiyu in front of him with his claws and punched him in the face. At this moment, Fire You was also in a human form, so his bonus defense was naturally not as good as his original body. Therefore, half of his face swelled up in just a short while. The Fire You was furious, but instead of letting out a cry of pain, it laughed loudly. What was even more exaggerated was that the more he laughed, the more excited he became. He laughed so hard that he couldn't even straighten his back. This scene made all the Cheelin's forehead hang black lines. What was going on? They didn't think that the acting clan leader had a masochist physique, but this was the first time they had seen someone laughing so happily after being beaten. This was not normal. This was definitely not normal. The smarter Cheelin had already guessed that it might be those medicinal pills. At this moment, Song's fist aimed at Huiyu again. In just a short while, Huiyu was beaten up so badly that he was no longer human. There were no parts of his body that were intact. The pain in his body had already made him cry, but he was still laughing loudly while he was crying. Upon seeing this, the Cheelins that were present didn't know what to say. When Lung Ruashua saw that the time was right, she gave Song a look to make him stop. Then, Lung Ruashua asked Huiyu with concern, Does it hurt? No. Haha. Huiyu was still very unyielding. He wanted to say that it didn't hurt, but he only said one word before he laughed wildly again. You have a backbone. Lung Ruashua laughed evilly. Then, Azure continued to beat him up. However, in addition to the maniacal laughter, the Fire You felt pain and itchiness all over its body. In the end, it couldn't stand the itchiness and simply rolled on the ground. As a result, Song couldn't attack. Azure was also a little tired. Then he sat in the empty seat next to the Cheelin Great Elder. He looked at Huiyu, who was rolling on the ground, out of the corner of his eye, while he tried to bond with the Cheelin Great Elder. Song didn't say anything. He just stared at the Cheelin Elder. This made the Elder's heart tremble, because he really couldn't figure out what this person was trying to do. Should he also beat him up and embarrass him? Unfortunately, the Cheelin Great Elder was wrong. At this moment, Song only glanced at him casually and didn't plan to deal with him. After feeling that the mental pressure on the Great Elder of the Cheelin clan was enough, Azure's cold and gloomy gaze turned to the other Cheelin's bodies. Instantly, The Cheelants that seemed to have been stared at by a demon couldn't help but shiver. "Are you guys done choosing?" Azure asked indifferently, intentionally revealing his sharp claws. All the Cheelants looked at each other. No one was willing to be the one to stand out. In the end, Song was helpless and could only do it himself. After pulling out a Cheelan, Azure directly waved his fist, but before he could hit the Cheelan, the other party was so scared that he cried bitterly, I'm done. Thanks, Sob. Let him go. He was not as thick-skinned as the acting clan leader. Speak. Song's small head raised as he softly spat out a word. I agree. The Kirin, who was forced to stand out, said with a choked voice. Agree to what? Make it clear. Azure wasn't satisfied with the other's short reply. I agree with the Patriarch to step down to the second line. The Cheelan quickly said. Azure was satisfied and used his sharp claws to pat the other's face, praising, Very good. You are a loyal Cheelan. Your clan leader has worked hard for so many years. It is time for him to take a good rest. Don't you think so? Right? The chief is really too tired. The Cheelan continued to follow Azure's words, clearly quite tactful. Azure was very pleased with the other party's quick-witted attitude. Then, he pointed at the place where the unlucky Cheelan was standing, indicating for him to go over. With this special pardon, the Cheelan heaved a sigh of relief and ran over. The two brothers even shook their claws in tacit understanding. Now, they had a little companion. They were not fighting alone, even though their surrender was looked down upon by quite a number of the Cheelants. But when they thought about Azure's strength, the two Cheelants felt that it was all worth it. At the same time, they believed that more and more of their friends would join their big family that was in favor of their tribe leader stepping down. In fact, even though they were forced to agree to the clan leader's retreat, the two Cheelants became calmer after saying this. Since this was the general trend, what difference did it make to agree earlier or later? Moreover, after they agreed, their perspective on a matter would naturally be different. They deeply agreed with Song's words. All these years, the clan leader had worked too hard. It wasn't easy to find the little prince, but the little prince had lived like that. With such an awkward identity, it was indeed not easy to return to the clan and socialize. After thinking about it this way, they no longer felt like they had betrayed the Cheelan race. They were doing this for the good of their clan leader and wanted their clan leader to live a happy life. And as more and more Cheelan joined their side, they felt even more certain that their choice was right. In the end, after Tsong's efforts, all the Cheelants, except for the first elder and Huayu, agreed to this. However, the two hardest to deal with gave Azure a headache. Especially Huayu, even though he was being tortured by him, he still didn't let go. At this moment, Tsongdu could not help but admire Huiyueli. No wonder Ice Spirit wanted him to be the patriarch of the Cheelan clan. It seemed that this guy wasn't without any redeeming qualities. At the very least, he wasn't being threatened at the moment. As for the first elder of the Cheelan clan, his stubbornness might not be inferior to the Fire Yu. Song was at a loss. Using violence to deal with these two wouldn't work. Although he had yet to attack the Cheelan Great Elder with his claws, Azure could tell that the old fellow was even more difficult to deal with than Fire Yu. After discussing with Lung Ruoxue privately, Song decided to stop. After doing so much for Ice Spirit, it was natural to leave the two most difficult things for him. Of course, it was Lung Ruoxue who handed the two of them over to Ice Spirit. Song didn't want the other side to think that they retreated because they couldn't handle it. After all, it definitely had more violent means than before. Mainly, it couldn't be used casually, or else the two Cheelants would lose their lives. Just like that, under Lung Ruoxue and Song's forceful attacks, Ice Soul didn't have to do anything and was able to deal with more than half of the Cheelants. The two most difficult to deal with were also taken away by Ice Soul. Before he left, Ice Spirit did not forget to ask Lung Ruoxue for the antidote. Otherwise, the Fire Yu would. The other Cheelants didn't dare to stay any longer as they watched the clan leader take the acting clan leader and the Great Elder away. They quickly left the meeting room as if they were running for their lives. Chapter 2802. The woman who orders people around. 3. For the next few days, Ice Soul and the Qilin did not appear. When they did, Ice Soul's face was full of joy. Although Fire Yu and the first elder of the Qilin clan still had bitter expressions, Lung Ruoxue could guess that the matter had been resolved. Otherwise, Ice Soul would not be smiling so happily. However, when Lung Ruoxue asked about how the matter was resolved, Bing Po remained silent. He only said that it was all due to Bing Yao's efforts that the matter was resolved smoothly. Lung Ruoxue was even more surprised when she heard this. However, out of respect for Bing Yi, she naturally wouldn't probe further if the other party didn't take the initiative to say anything. After that, Ice Spirit expressed her gratitude to Lung Ruoxue for being so nosy. She then invited the group to the Qilin clan to attend the Fire Yu's coronation ceremony. Lung Ruoxue accepted it gladly. When Huiyu saw her, his face would occasionally reveal hidden bitterness and anger, but she didn't take it seriously. After making some arrangements, Lung Ruoxue brought Uncle Long, Godfather, and the rest to the Qilin clan with Bing Po. Their goal was, of course, the Fire Yu's coronation ceremony. However, before that, Ice Spirit and the others had to inform their clansmen. Fortunately, only the elders and elites of the Qilin clan had agreed for Ice Spirit to step down, so the ordinary Qilin clansmen didn't dare to object. After taking care of all the Qilins, Ice Soul announced the matter to the entire divinity. Then, the day of the coronation officially arrived. Lung Ruoxue and the others were the only representatives invited to the ceremony, so their status in the firmament was naturally high. The ceremony for the Qilin clan leader's inauguration was actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it was a handover of power. As the leader of the Qilin clan, Ice Soul had given the token to Fire Yu. From then on, Fire Yu was the true leader of the Qilin clan. However, Huiyu, who had accepted all of this, still did not have a smile on his face. Seeing him like this, Lung Ruoxue knew that he was still a little unwilling. However, she believed that with time, the Fire Yu would finally accept all of this, and he had no choice but to accept it. The coronation ceremony was short but grand. When everything was settled, Lung Ruoxue and the rest took a short rest before returning to Demon City. Of course, Bing Po, Shui Mo, and Feng Yi also went back with them. However, they had just reached home when Bing Yun arrived with dozens of clansmen. In Bing Yun's words, these clansmen were sent by the clan leader to take care of Bing Po, Shui Mo, and the little prince. Lung Ruoxue, please allow them to stay. Meanwhile, the Kirin army that had arrived were only ordinary Kirin army. The Kirin army that had visited Demon City before would never dare to return. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she readily agreed to Bing Yun's request and allowed these Qilins to stay. After settling the matters of the Qilin clan, Lung Ruoxue made up her mind to go into closed-door cultivation. This time, she decided to go into seclusion. Unless she completed the heaven-defying incantation, she would not come out. However, before this idea could be realized, another uninvited guest arrived. The uninvited guest this time was brought by Miao Jie's fierce wife. Initially, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to bother with him. However, considering that Miao Jie was one of her own, so was his wife. Hence, she decided to give him face and was prepared to meet him. Knowing that the other party was currently in the living room, Lung Ruoxue immediately headed there. Who knew that just as she walked to the door of the living room, she heard a woman's sharp and dissatisfied voice coming from inside. "Where's Lung Ruoxue? Why haven't you come out to see us?" Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but frown. One had to know that in the entire divine realm, there was probably no one who dared to be so presumptuous in her territory. Could it be that this unknown woman thought that she could be compared to Wu Yin? Of course, Wu Yin would not say such words as she did. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue was no longer in a hurry to enter. At this time, Uncle Long and Master Ning, who were accompanying the woman in the living room, were obviously very dissatisfied when they heard the woman's words. However, as top powerhouses, they naturally would not argue with a woman. Therefore, They turned their eyes to the middle-aged man sitting next to the woman. Unfortunately, the middle-aged man didn't seem to hear the woman's words, nor did he see the dissatisfaction in the eyes of Uncle Long and Master Ning. Instead, he raised the teacup in his hand and savored it carefully as if no one was around. Thanks seeing this, Uncle Long and Master Ning understood everything. Why did these two people come here to find trouble? They were not afraid of anything, but the least afraid of someone coming to pick a fight with them. It just so happened that they had been idle recently, so the two of them were happy to play with these two. With this thought in mind, Uncle Long and Master Ning were no longer angry at the woman's rudeness. However, as someone who had come to visit with them, Madame Meow's heart was filled with anger. If it wasn't for the inappropriate occasion, she would have exploded. At this moment, she was extremely regretful of bringing these two people to Demon City. Now that Lung Ruoxue, a woman who could not tolerate any mishaps, knew about this, she would definitely make things difficult for her man. At the same time, she also couldn't understand why those old goo would make such an arrangement. Of all the people they could have sent, why did they send two pieces of trash who were not successful and only good at causing trouble? Wasn't this a bad thing? Madame Meow was filled with regret, but at the same time, she was glad that Lung Ruoxue wasn't here. Otherwise, the situation would have been out of control. But could he clean it up now? Madame Meow glanced at the calm and composed Uncle Long and Master Ning. Seeing that these two important figures were acting as if nothing had happened, her heart began to feel uneasy for no reason. It was reasonable to say that with Uncle Long and Master Ning's status, they shouldn't tolerate the deliberate provocation of two people who were not as strong as them. However, he had endured it. Such an unusual reaction made her heart feel uneasy. Perhaps it was a serious mistake for her to come here today, and bringing these two people along was an even bigger mistake. At this moment, Madame Meow really wanted to escape by peeing, but she gave up on that thought. I can't hide from what's coming. She was already mentally prepared to be blamed by Lung Ruoxue. With such a thought in mind, she couldn't be bothered to stop these two idiots from doing anything. If they wanted to die, who could they blame? More importantly, Madame Meow didn't think that she would be able to stop the other party. So, after Madame Meow gave Uncle Long and Master Ning an apologetic look, she obediently tasted the delicious desserts on the table. Look at the food she made. It was really exquisite, beautiful, and delicious. Madame Meow gobbled down the desserts one by one, and soon her mouth was full. In her hands, there were even two small pieces of desserts, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch them away. The young lady who had previously complained about Lung Ruoxue's lack of haste in coming to see them, upon seeing Madame Meow's reaction, was filled with disdain. She had never been on stage before, so what if she had never eaten anything in her life? Was there a need to wolf down the food without caring about his image? She had really lost all her face. The young woman was full of hatred. She couldn't understand how this stupid and ugly man could marry the president of the mission headquarters. What was even more inconceivable was that the president still loved this fool so much and listened to his every word. It was really too incomprehensible. Thinking of this, the young woman's eyes suddenly burst with hatred, and she wanted to cut the fool in front of her into pieces. It was so unfair. What right did this ugly woman have to marry such a powerful man? And a beauty like her could only stay with a good-for-nothing? Wasn't it all because the other party had a powerful ancestor? The more the young woman thought about it, the more her heart felt unbalanced. She knew that she could not do anything to Madame Meow, so she could only vent her anger on outsiders. As for the outsiders in her eyes, she was referring to Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue was not present at the moment, so the outsiders in front of her could only be Uncle Long and Master Ning. However, Master Ning was the head of the 8 great divine domains of the divine world, the old ancestor of the Ning family. He was definitely not someone she could afford to offend. As such, Uncle Long, whom she was not familiar with and did not think to be very famous, naturally became her primary target. Then, She pointed at Uncle Long with her slender finger and said in a commanding tone, "You, quickly go and find Lung Rua Shue for me. I want to question her. Is this how she treats her guests?" Me? Hearing this, Uncle Long was stunned. He pointed at himself, speechlessly. Did this woman think he was a pushover? She actually ordered him around and even wanted to question Shue. She really wanted to know where she got her guts from. And who gave her such courage? "It's you. I order you to quickly call Lung Rua Shue over. This is outrageous. She actually made me wait for her here for so long. Don't you know that my time is precious?" Seeing Uncle Long's slow reaction, the young woman's dissatisfaction intensified. "I really didn't know that your time was so precious. However, what does this have to do with us?" Uncle Long was so angry that he laughed. "How can it not be related to you? We've come to your place. Shouldn't you treat us well?" The young woman said matter-of-factly, "We've been treating you well. Look, all the good tea and snacks have been served, so what are you still dissatisfied about?" Uncle Long sighed and said helplessly, "Who wants your tea and snacks? The person we want to see is Lung Rua Shue, but she hasn't come out after so long. She's clearly not giving us any face. Not only that, but you also sent 2 people with no status to accompany us. Could it be that this is how your demon city treats its guests?" The young woman said angrily after hearing what Uncle Long said. Chapter 2803. We're here to take you in. 1. 2 people with no status? Uncle Long and Master Ning looked at each other and saw a trace of doubt in each other's eyes. The so-called naked people this young woman mentioned, were they the 2 of them? If it really was the 2 of them, then how did this woman determine that she didn't have any identity? This woman was not clear about Uncle Long's background, so it was more acceptable to say that he had no status. After all, for tens of thousands of years, Uncle Long could be said to have rarely moved around in the divine world, so it was normal for the younger generation to not know him. However, he had been active in the divine realm for tens of thousands of years. His face could be said to be known by almost everyone in the divine realm. Thus, he really could not understand why this woman had the right to say such things about him. From what he could see, this woman's strength was only at the level of a divine king. A divine king dared to say that a reverent god had no status? Master Ning really wanted to roar. "May I ask who you are? Show to scare me?" It could be said that from the moment these 3 people entered the living room, other than the woman who called herself Madame Meow, giving a simple self-introduction, the 2 people in front of them didn't even introduce themselves. Madame Meow also didn't explain their identities. And these 2 people, ever since they entered their territory, had a cool, overbearing, arrogant, and insufferably arrogant expression. However, out of courtesy, Uncle Long and Master Ning did not raise any doubts about their attitudes. Instead, they were still very polite. After all, it was Madame Meow who brought them here, so they had to give some face to Madame Meow, who was considered half a family member. However, the other party had already bullied them. If the 2 of them allowed the situation to develop as it pleased, they would become the laughingstock of Demon City before the next day. Thinking of this, Uncle Long and Master Ning put away their kind expressions and released their pressure. Suddenly, the young woman and the middle-aged man felt a great pressure, and their faces turned pale. Then Master Ning smiled and asked, "Little girl, who are you referring to when you said someone with no status?" "Ning brat, aren't you just an advisor?" Of course, she's talking about the 2 of us. Without giving the young woman a chance to speak, Uncle Long spoke first. "That's right, it's you too." The young woman suppressed the fear in her heart and said with a disapproving look, "Humph." She did not believe that the 2 people in front of her would dare to hurt her. "So my status as the master of the Ning family is worthless in your eyes?" Master Ning continued to ask, his handsome face still full of curiosity. What's so great about being the head of the Ning family?" After being asked by the master of the Ning family, the young woman's temper suddenly flared up. She didn't care if she could afford to provoke the other party. In any case, she had already provoked him, so what was there to be afraid of? In addition, She was very sure that if Master Ning knew her identity, he would not dare to hurt her. Ha ha! Well said, what's so great about being the head of the Ning family? Uncle Long couldn't help but laugh wildly when he saw Master Ning's constipated face after hearing the young woman's words. His tone was full of gloating. He deserved it. This old man didn't want to give up and had to ask so clearly. Now, great, the other party didn't care about his identity at all. This old man must be embarrassed now, right? The master of the Ning family was more than embarrassed. He was so depressed that he wanted to die. Of the few people present, the most depressed was Madame Yao, who was treated like an invisible person. At this moment, she even wanted to die. His little heart was beating uncontrollably, and he cursed in his heart. How could this woman be so brainless? He actually dared to say in public that the master of the Ning family was so great? What's so great about him that you can evaluate him? Is he someone you can provoke? This was definitely the rhythm of courting death. Madame Yao felt that she had really made a mistake by coming here today. She should not have come here. Thanks after thinking about it. She felt that she could not stay here any longer. She wanted to leave before the situation got out of hand, and she was implicated. After making her decision, Madame Yao suddenly stood up and bowed to Uncle Long and Master Ning. Two seniors, I just remembered that I still have some unfinished business at home. I think I should take my leave first. You bastard. If she didn't leave now, she was afraid that she would lose all her face. Seeing that Madame Yao was about to leave, Uncle Long smiled calmly and asked, "What? Madame Yao also feels that we, who have no status, are not qualified to entertain you. So you want to leave? Oomph. It's good that you know." Without waiting for Madame Yao, whose face had turned pale from fright, to answer, the young woman rushed to answer, her beautiful face full of disgust. "You shut up." Madame Yao roared at the young woman angrily, then turned to Uncle Long with an apologetic look. "Senior, you've misunderstood. How could I think that way? There's really something at home." After saying this, she was already breaking out in cold sweat. She wanted to strangle this stupid woman in front of her. Damn it. It's fine if you're the one pulling the aggro, but why did you drag her into it? They were not from the same country. Madame Yao was exceptionally angry, but the young woman was even angrier than her after being yelled at. After that, the young woman turned her spear around and pointed it directly at Madame Yao. She then roared, "Miao Tsuehua, who are you shouting at? Who gave you the guts? You're getting bolder, aren't you? You bastard. I said don't call me Miao Tsuehua. My surname isn't Miao." When Madame Yao heard those 3 words, she was instantly enraged. Seeing that the 2 tigresses were about to fight, Uncle Long and Master Ning were speechless and didn't know what to say. Aren't these 2 a little too dramatic? How did the 2 of them get into a fight in such a short time? Lung Ruoxue, who had been waiting outside the door, almost burst out laughing when she heard the name Miao Tsuehua. This reminded her of something, especially the 2 words Tsuehua. Tsuehua, serve the pickled vegetables. Such loving words. As she thought about it, Lung Ruoxue's thoughts flew off again. At the same time, the young woman in the living room heard Madame Yao's words and simply sneered. "Yup, your last name is Mu, not Miao. Miao and Mu are both plants. So what does it matter if your last name is Mu? Of course it's related. I'm a tough woman, and you're asking me to take my husband's surname. Aren't you looking down on me? Oomph. If you want to follow, hell, follow my surname, Mu. It's best if you all call him President Mu in the future." Madame Miao roared, "Miao Tsuehua, don't even think about it." The young woman's eyelids twitched. She had no intention of fulfilling Madame Miao's wish. When Madame Miao saw this, her anger instantly rose. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she pounced on the young woman, and the 2 of them started a fight. Uncle Long and Master Ning were dumbfounded by this scene. What was going on? Chapter 2804. We're here to take you in, too. Why did the 2 of them start fighting? One had to know that the young woman's cannon fire was still aimed at them. But in the blink of an eye, the church had started killing each other. And the reason for killing each other was actually because of their surnames. Thinking of President Mu, Uncle Long and Master Ning couldn't help but sympathize with him. Then, the two of them glanced at the middle-aged man who was still sitting calmly on the chair, not paying any attention to the fight between Madame Meow and the young woman. They thought to themselves, could it be that this kind of situation happens often? Otherwise, why would this person be so indifferent? It had to be said that Uncle Long and Master Ning were right. Madame Meow and the young woman had been at odds for a long time. For the two of them to be able to live in peace for 2 days, that could definitely be called a miracle in the history of the divine realm. This time, however, the clan had sent 2 of them to Demon City. This result had already shocked the entire clan. Now, the 2 of them had finally gotten along peacefully in someone else's territory for a while, and now they finally couldn't hold on any longer and started fighting. After the 2 of them started fighting, Uncle Long and Master Ning didn't think about pulling them apart. It was none of their business anyway, as long as they didn't destroy the decorations. Just as the 2 of them were thinking about this, they heard a loud bang. A beautiful vase that was half the height of a person placed in the upper left corner of the living room shattered. Uncle Long's heart ached when he saw this. This was his favorite flower vase, and she had returned to nature just like that. No, I can't just let it go like this. He had to take revenge for his most beloved vase. Uncle Long, who had made up his mind, suddenly looked up and saw the gloating eyes of the master of the Ning family. At this moment, those red eyes were telling him, I told you not to stop it, but now you're in trouble, right? Uncle Long glared back. At this moment, there was another loud noise, and then he saw Master Ning's face turn black. This time, it was Uncle Long's turn to gloat. The 2 of them didn't have to care about each other before, but now they didn't have to laugh at each other. Uncle Long instantly felt better. But Master Ning was so angry that he wanted to cut the 2 women in front of him into 8 pieces. It was really too detestable. The vase that the 2 of them smashed later on was his favorite. However, before Master Ning had time to worry, a series of banging sounds came to his ears. The 2 of them looked up at the same time, and no one spoke. All right. They had to admit that the 2 women's destructive power was unparalleled because the decorations in the living room were basically destroyed. Seeing this tragic scene, the 2 of them were actually not angry anymore. He sat on the chair calmly and quietly became an audience. When the 2 women were tired and sat on the ground, panting, Uncle Long and Master Ning stood up from their chairs and walked to them, asking indifferently, Are you done? Madame Meow was jolted back to her senses when she heard this. At the same time, she saw the ruins in front of her, and her heart instantly turned cold. Oh my God, did the 2 of them do this? Madame Meow truly didn't expect that her uncontrollable anger would actually cause such a big problem. What should he do? Thanks, Sob. Madame Meow burst into tears. Even though she had not interacted much with Lung Ruoxue, she had already experienced how terrifying that lass was. The 2 of them were definitely not on the same level. For a moment, she was a little panicked, but the young woman didn't take it seriously and even took Uncle Long and Master Ning's words as mockery. So she quickly retorted, It's none of your business. It's not that we want to interfere. We just want to remind you that you 2 have broken our things, and you need to compensate us. Uncle Long said calmly with a smile on his face. Compensation? In your dreams? I've broken countless things since I was young, and no one has ever dared to ask me for compensation. The young woman said disdainfully after hearing what Uncle Long said. Not in the past doesn't mean that there won't be in the future, you know? In addition, I don't care who you are. No matter how high your status is, can it be higher than that bitch, Wu Chun? She has to pay the price in blood for smashing our things. Do you think you can beat her? Uncle Long sneered. I. The young woman was speechless. Even though she still wanted to argue, she really couldn't say that she was nobler than Wu Chun. However, when compared to Lung Ruoxue, she felt that she was nobler. Thinking of this, the young woman said, Although my status is not as noble as God Lord Rhyme Ripple S, it's still more than enough to compare to Lung Ruoxue's. So, even if I destroy everything in her place, she has no right to ask me for compensation. The young woman's self-confidence made Uncle Long and Master Ning speechless, and they were even more dissatisfied with her belittling Shui and raising her own status. But before they could flare up, they heard a faint and familiar voice. "Your name is God Lord Fogripple? Do you still think that your status is higher than mine?" As she spoke, Lung Ruoxue had already stepped into the living room. Following behind her were Dong Fong Yu and the rest, as well as the shape-shifted beasts. At this moment, be it humans or beastie, their expressions were not very good. They had already been standing outside and watching the show for a while. But now, he naturally had to support Shui. Who are you?" Despite Lung Ruoxue's words, the young lady still asked. "I'm Lung Ruoxue. Why? Didn't you do your homework before coming here?" Lung Ruoxue glanced at the young lady who was in a sorry state and asked coldly. Hearing this, the young woman's eyes unconsciously flashed with a trace of jealousy. She hated it. Lung Ruoxue was indeed as beautiful as the legends had said. Not only that, she was now famous, causing people to tremble in fear. All of this made her feel extremely unfair. Why? However, how could a woman who had ascended from the lower realm have all this? As for her, a woman of noble birth, she could only keep a low profile and live in a dark corner, not known by the people of the divine realm. This was too unfair. The jealousy in the young woman's heart instantly reached its peak. At this moment, she deeply felt that people like Miao Tsuehua were no longer worthy of her jealousy. Lung Ruoxue was her greatest enemy, and she wanted to have everything that Lung Ruoxue had. The entire demon city should be hers. Thinking of this, the young woman raised her head arrogantly and said, "Your status is not worthy of me doing my homework." Was it? I wonder what kind of identity is worthy of you to do your homework. Also, I'd like to know who you are. Why don't you tell me and give me a shock? Lung Ruoxue wasn't angry and even asked with a smile. You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Although my identity isn't something an ascender like you is qualified to know, but seeing that you still have value, will tell you kindly. You better listen carefully. I'm Princess Jiao Yu of the Dark Family Alliance, so you'd better be more respectful to me. The young woman said arrogantly. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.